Yeah.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Wilmette Park District regular meeting of Board of Park Commissioners this Monday, August 8th, 2022 at 7:32 p.m. Could I begin with a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy?
Present.
Commissioner Anderson?
Here.
Commissioner Frazier?
Here.
Commissioner Goebel?
Here.
Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Here.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Here.
You have a full quorum.
Great. I just want to let folks know at the start of the meeting that I will probably be leaving at some point during the meeting. My middle son arrived back from Uganda today, and he's leaving again tomorrow, so I want to spend a little bit of time with them. So I certainly want to be here for the Langdon conversation, but then I may turn the meeting over to Kara after that. Could we begin with the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda of the August 8th, 2022 regular board meeting, a copy of which is to be attached to and become a permanent part of the minutes of this meeting.
I second that.
Great. Are there any, first of all, is there any item that anyone would like to remove from the consent agenda? All right, then could I have a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved.
Great. Communication and correspondence, we received a number of letters on a number of topics, so a lot of that having to do with Langdon, which we will be discussing earlier tonight, some with Gilson, but it's all a part of the record, and I believe we received additional communication since the packet was originally published, and that's been included as well. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
There were
Great.
also two recent emails, probably within the last, since like 5 o'clock today. One from Go Green Wilmette and one from Ann Hayden Stevens on Langdon.
And so
regarding
typically, if those don't make it in this packet, we'll then make sure
Langdon.
that it's in the
but I'm
next
just saying
packet, so it's
they
part of the
mentioned
public
that
record.
that there were a couple,
Thank you.
acknowledging there were a couple of.
And Mike, if I could just add, I did have a chance to meet with Amy Boyer this afternoon to walk along Langdon and just to hear her perspective and experience. And that was just before this evening, so wanted to make a note of that. And then we received so many emails, I think, about, as you mentioned, Langdon in particular. I know I haven't had a chance to respond to all of them, but did read all of them and grateful for that input. So just wanted to acknowledge that as well.
Thank you. With respect to public comment, I'd like to see a show of hands of who would like to address us this evening. And then a show of hands of anyone who would like to address us on a topic that does not have to do with Langdon. Anyone? All right. So what I'm going to do, we're going to have a presentation from our consultants. So anyone who does not want to talk, who wants to talk about a topic other than Langdon, I'm going to ask you to come up tonight at the start of the meeting here. And then for anyone else, I'm going to give you another opportunity for public comment after we've heard the presentation from the consultants. So again, I think I saw two hands of people who wanted to address us on a topic other than Langdon. So please.
Alan Golden, 2516, well, these work. 2516 Laurel Lane. So I have two comments. One of them you just addressed, which was making sure that public comment could happen after there was some information that came forward. Otherwise, it's kind of like being, it's in the middle, it's in arrears, basically, is what ends up happening. So thank you for that. That's great. The second thing has to do with the Gilson Park Road Survey that we all recently received. I hate to say this, but it was another really poorly written and designed survey. There was no option in the survey for leaving the roads as they were and just doing the repair and sewer work that was needed. None of the above means you're not doing anything. So it was very, very misleading. So you had none of the above to remove the road. None of the above. That doesn't mean you're not doing anything. There was no breakdown of cost for just leaving the roads where they were and doing the necessary repair and curb work and sewer work and drainage. So there was no way to compare leaving the roads, removing Middle Drive, removing Middle Drive and Upper Drive with just leaving the roads there. So I hate to say this, but any decisions that are made based on that survey are going to be flawed. Because the survey was flawed. Secondly, I would like to see a copy of the raw data when it comes in. So I would appreciate that. Whenever all the raw data comes in and you compile it, I'd like to see a raw copy of that data, if possible.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Mary?
Good evening. I'm Mary Shea, Gilson neighbor. My letter sent to the board last Wednesday did not make it into the packet, so I'm here to request that it be added to the record retroactively. It was stated at the June Committee of the Whole meeting and later in the board brief that the Gilson survey would be sent out at the end of August after the historical research was completed. The results of that research have not been announced, and yet the survey went out. The July board discussion of survey questions was just that, a discussion, hardly an adequate design. The hastily composed survey was rushed to the Park District program users, not the entire taxpaying population. Postcards are sent regularly to all Wilmette residents to advertise programs, but for this survey, they were not sent. It was publicly announced last fall that the extensive community input performed last summer by Lakota showed that residents favored Plan 1. Since that time, the idea of moving Upper Drive out of MWRD control has been repeatedly urged on the commissioners. This destructive notion would remove 9 mature trees and cost $1.3 million. It is not a reasonable idea in any way. It is not clear whether this idea involves the destruction of the World War I Memorial Grove as well. Where was this item on the survey? Have you hopefully given it up? When last studied, the Park District's own engineering consultants found that the current road configuration at Gilson was the most workable and stated that it should not be changed. Residents have said repeatedly they want a safe pedestrian path into the park. The proposed alternative pedestrian path is part of park circulation and should have been in the survey. Public safety requires more than lip service. Because of the violent world in which we live, the very idea of removing access and emergency roads in the park should be abandoned now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I would just like to point out a couple of things. First off, Mary had indicated that her letter was not included in the packet. It was, in fact, included in the packet. It came immediately following the voucher list, if anybody would like to see that. In addition, the last time Mary spoke to us, she stated that only 18 rentals occurred at the picnic shelter. And that was, I believe, in the context of not needing additional picnic shelters or even the current picnic shelter. Just wanted to provide in the public record that actually in 2021, there were almost 200 rentals at the picnic shelter, 196 by residents and 3 by non-residents. And this year, as of June, the end of June, I don't have the more current data, we were on a pace for even more because we had 143 resident rentals and 6 non-resident rentals. So I think it's everybody's welcome to come up here and share their opinion, but it's important that we always make sure that we have our facts accurate. Thank you much.
That was not my opinion.
I'm correcting the record. Thank you. Would anybody else like to address us this evening on a subject other than Langdon? Great. All right. With that, then, we will move on to item 5.0 on the agenda, the Langdon Shoreline Protection Project, the consultant presentation. The floor is yours, gentlemen.
You have everything set up there?
Sorry?
Do you have your presentation there, or do you want me to do it from here?
I have it on a thumb drive. I can upload it.
Sure. If anyone can't hear any aspect of the presentation tonight, just raise your hand and we'll try to speak more clearly and more loudly. Thank you.
Okay, we're just loading up the presentation.
You're going to have to move closer
And maybe
to
put
us.
the two, yeah, there you go.
They're directional, so just have them pointing at you. Yeah.
Okay.
Just lean towards us.
Okay, thank you for your patience. My name is Bill Wood. I'm a senior civil engineer with Smith Group, and we're a consultant for the Park District on this project. I will be the key presenter tonight, and I am accompanied by Mauricio Wesson. He's a senior coastal engineer and my colleague at Smith Group. Previously, you've heard from Mark Wagstaff, another colleague of ours. And Mark, unfortunately, is out of town. He sends his best, but Mauricio and I are here to go through the presentation and answer any questions. And we are happy to be here, so thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm sorry I'm having a little trouble with the mic, but please let me know if the volume is too low. But what we want to do tonight is walk through this agenda here. And that first we wanted to overview our project design goals, just to recap those, make sure those are understood. We also want to review our prior concepts that we've gone over with you to date. Certainly we've received some questions already that we want to go through, make sure we provide sufficient responses to those. And lastly, we're going to talk about the project timeline and what the next steps may be based on feedback from you. So let's first recap our project design goals. If you're not aware, Langdon obviously has incurred a lot of erosion since 2019. You can see that evident from the pictures here. But the key or the primary goal with this project is to prevent land loss and make sure we stabilize the toe of the bluff and protect against any catastrophic failure. Without adequate toe protection in the form of a robust revetment, the existing stones the bluff itself would continue to recede. And the existing revetment stones, as you can see on the right, are cracked and in really poor shape, lots of deterioration, and there are many gaps in the revetment itself. So protection remains an issue. Some secondary goals that we have, stormwater also creates erosion down the bluff from the upland area. And we've seen that in many instances where the access that was formerly there had to be closed. So restoring that and addressing the stormwater issues at the same time of stabilizing the toe of the bluff and creating a revetment are goals of this project as well. Create some efficiency there. We also know the existing bluff is steeper than desired for long-term stability based on our geotechnical analysis. So what this means is that there's a chance of failure of the bluff above the existing revetment in the long term. There could be landslides or slip failure that occur over time, and that really puts the existing mature trees right at that bluff line, right at the top of the bluff, at risk. So we want to ensure that we don't have any loss there as well. And then lastly, for our goals is the opportunity to improve the overall ecological value of the vegetation that's currently out there. You can see just from these photos that it's, there's some pretty poor conditions. I've actually highlighted or circled on the photo on the right some fallen trees. And we're going to talk about that tree in particular a little bit later. And about the trees that need to be removed, but that is actually one of the trees that we've identified to be removed, and it just happens to be in poor condition already. But we also received several questions from you specifically about the vegetation. So again, we'll talk about those in more detail coming up. So next we want to go over the concepts that we put forth and really step through those at a high level and go through the timeline of our progress or excuse me, our design process. So back in November of 2021, we came up with several different options. This first one that we're looking at shows where we would restore the restore the revetment at the toe of the slope and really provide a robust solution there for stabilization. Now, important to note here is that with this concept, we did not provide beach access. And while that remained one of our goals, this was the minimal approach that we wanted to take, and then beach access we looked at for the solution as kind of a second idea or an add-on would be, in this solution would be done through a stair that would access through the old pathway and proceed down the slope via a stair system.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but we didn't provide any cost estimates for this plan, is that correct?
We did not.
Right. We
Correct.
thought this would be the most expensive plan.
Correct.
And we never estimated what it actually might be, but it would be more than any of the others.
That's correct,
Okay,
Commissioner.
thank you.
Well, hang on, it was the most expensive because it was in 2 phases.
That's also correct. We do have a slide that speaks to both of those points.
Yeah, great.
So that'll be coming up here real shortly. But, revisiting our project goals, we know that restoring the access was an important goal. And so we wanted to look at how we could do that aside from this stair system that would be equitable for all. So we also looked at 2 additional options and how we could execute that. This first one, which we called Concept B, is it's very similar to what was there previously. It would be a stabilized slope, but at a very steep slope down that access way that originally was used. And, that would be in the upwards of 10 to 12%. So very steep and a little bit challenging to navigate. We would agree with that. But an important other thing to note here is that the pathway would need to find a way to access down to the beach area. And we propose to do that with overlapping revetment at the south end. That does leave that south end a little bit vulnerable or open to some additional future wave action that could cause some erosion in that area. So that's just something that was part of the consideration there. Concept B, or our second pathway that we looked at for access, was an elongated pathway that would traverse the slope, but then proceed to the north in a much longer length. So with that added length, we were able to reduce the overall slope or the average slope of that pathway to that 5% maximum, which would be accessible for ADA. So that was a key criteria that we were looking at, or a key difference from that Concept B. However, with this, of course, we're cutting into the slope or the bluff, and there would be some restoration that would be needed to do to the vegetation, as well as grade that slope into the bluff, the walkway into the bluff. And you can see there are also some retaining benches that we proposed in 2 locations, one right at kind of the knuckle as you come down, as well as a structure kind of midway along the north section of the slope. And those were to retain some grades and really prevent minimal removal of trees. You can see we've protected those trees, but the retaining structures were key to enable that to happen. Keep that in mind, because we'll be talking about those such trees moving forward here in our future plans here. So this is the matrix that I mentioned that looks at a high level, a little snapshot, a comparison of the alternatives, but also what were highlighted at the bottom of cost ranges. And it's important to note that these costs are very similar, but as Commissioner Duffy mentioned, and Commissioner Murdoch mentioned, the concept A2, which included the stair, was concluded to be the most expensive option, although we didn't do detailed costs. And a big part of that, as Commissioner Duffy mentioned, is because of the phasing of that, not doing it all at one time. But you gave us great feedback based on that November meeting. We've highlighted the option that was selected to move forward. That was concept C, in that configuration where we would extend the pathway to the north. And so let's take a closer look at where we are since November 21. This was back in April 2022. We came back with this site plan, so still the same configuration, but you can see we've introduced a switchback on the south end, and that really serves two purposes. That gives us some extra length where we can provide a gentler slope all the way down. So we're still, of course, ADA compliant, but we're reducing that slope so it's a little bit more manageable. We created some level spots where people have a little bit of respite, so they're not traversing a constant 5% slope. And it also enables us in this switchback to introduce a rain garden that helps us address the stormwater issues and the erosion that comes down the slope at that access point. And that duals as our pollinator garden to really enhance the ecological aspects of the park there. With this, we also heard some concerns from the commissioners here that we wanted to address at the same time back in April 2022. We got great feedback that we wanted to narrow that pathway from 10 feet to 8 feet. We also wanted to look at the configuration of the revetment and see if we could make it a little more economical. And both of those things were done in an effort or really a goal to provide as much beach width as we could. We know that's a highly desirable spot, but so making that as wide as we could was the goal there with those changes. So with that, we narrowed the crest width on the top of the revetment, and we also buried the toe so it would be still provide the suitable protection and stability, but also add to the added beach width. Now, I do want to note that with these changes in the configuration of the revetment, you're not sacrificing any protection of that toe. It's still a very robust system. It's adequately designed for the wave climate and for the conditions that we've modeled. So that's important to note. There might be some overtopping in severe storms, but we're going to talk about that as we look at the path materials coming up. Also part of that April 2022 meeting, we shared some conceptual renderings of what these systems might look like. Not only the stair and the overlook that we conceived, but the pathway itself and how that would engage at the upper portion, the upland part of the park, as well as navigate the slope to the north. And then since April 2022, we came back in June, later this year. And we wanted to give you an update at that point and really show how the design had developed. The renderings really bring the design to life. But what are the true impacts and how are the design details really coming together? That's what we came back with in June. And so this is the site plan that we shared at that time.
I'm going to ask you a difficult question on this picture here.
Sure.
Do you know when that photograph was taken, which you overlaid the work onto?
That's a great question. I apologize, I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of sand?
Yeah, because it's basically in the lake right now. So I mean, I know that there's a lot more beach there right now than is showing right here, but I'm just, one of the concerns that you guys addressed was moving the toe deeper, therefore it was kind of cut more into the bluff to give us more beach. And that was a year ago or almost a year ago that we talked about that. And the water level was higher at that point, and now it's lower. And so I was just, if this is a picture from last month, which I doubt it, or is it a picture from 2 years ago? It kind of makes a difference as to what this really is going to look like. 2 years ago. It's from 2 years ago. Okay.
Thanks, Mauricio. Yeah.
Thanks, Mauricio.
Mauricio is on the project team more on a day-to-day basis, so I appreciate that he's here. So again, back in June, we highlighted some key features, and one was what we call the pollinator / rain garden here again at the switchback on the south end. And you can see by the colorful rendering just the variety of plant material that was being proposed to really not only benefit the stormwater management, but also really enhance the ecological habitat for the park. There was quite a bit more that was covered in that June meeting of materials about the stairs, and we can go over that certainly if we'd like, but right now we wanted to really talk about the questions that you've given us most recently and make sure we respond to those. And please let us know if you'd like me to elaborate on anything that comes up here. But we're going to break this out into a series of slides. So I'm going to start with the stair structure itself. I just mentioned we covered a little bit about or really thoroughly about the materials and the system itself as how it was designed back in June. But some questions again have come up, and we wanted to cover those. So we think an independent stair structure with handrails is really the best for consistency of access. And that direction we received from the Park District was that the overlook and the stairs were to be bid as alternates. So that allows us really optimal or options for the Park District and how they want to move forward. If pricing comes back from bidders that's fairly attractive and favorable, those alternates could be picked up. It really helps us maximize the dollars that are available to the village and in the execution of this project. But let's talk a little bit more about the stair system itself. For a community park such as this, we really thought that a robust system that, we showed details on the right-hand side are appropriate and also address important code factors such as, fall protection and handrail and, consistent way to navigate that slope with risers and treads. There are some residential applications that may often use outcropping stones or stones such as what's pictured on the left-hand side, and those are certainly suitable for such applications. We just didn't feel that that's the right solution for this case, given the community that it's serving and the severity of that slope.
I'm sorry. I'm going to ask you a question, Bill.
Please.
I know I had asked the other gentleman that had come and presented to us about what about like pouring concrete to make steps through or over the top of the revetment into the sand.
So that's certainly an option that could be looked at.
So at the time, I was told that we couldn't do it for whatever, I don't remember his reason. And
Yep.
It's usually not recommended to, so the stones are placed,
I'm going to ask you to come up, just so that there's probably like 4 people watching on TV right now. They need to hear your.
it's commonly not recommended to place concrete on top of the armor stones.
Yeah.
Armor stones, they're placed randomly, and they tend to move a little bit, and that is okay. And they are designed. We have here 0.75 ton stones, and so if we could try to pour concrete, but we need to design a whole full base system to stabilize the whole section there. So even though it's possible, it's not as simple as just, putting some formwork and putting some concrete and having it on top of the stones. And then it involves a little bit more foundation work and other things. But it's commonly armor stone is a dynamic, permeable structure that we wanted so that the waves dissipate their energy there.
So with the stairs that are proposed, if the armor stone is doing its work, those stairs will get demolished.
Well, they have to design in a sturdy manner with the risers and the structure. And they have to design for the wave forces. So that would be my answer regarding the...
So the stairs, as they're designed, would withstand similar wave action as the armor stone.
That's the intent, yes. That would be the intent, to have the stairs survive wave action.
Whatever the wave action would be.
Depending on the wave action that we have there.
What's your confidence level in that? I mean,
That's a great question.
yeah.
I'm not the structural engineer that designed the stairs. I worked with the revetment itself and the coastal processes and the erosion of the bluff there and the sand. So I wouldn't be able to answer the details of that. At this stage, so we're working on the final design drawing, so I'd have to look into that before answering.
Yeah.
Mr.
yeah.
Duffy, let me just ask, are you concerned about the stair structure itself and the foundation system?
What I'm
or
concerned,
the
I'm
treads
concerned
that come
about.
down and,
No, I'm concerned about the longevity of the stairs, because the stones are there to stop wave action against the bluff in the event that we have the lake levels rise some more and we have the severe storms. What I don't want to see happen is the stairs getting flushed into the lake, and then we have to rebuild the stairs again. So that's what I am worried about.
so let me kind of address that in 2 parts. The stair system is really robust with steel piles that would be driven into the ground. I don't know the exact depth that we're looking at proposed, but it's really a performance level where they drive those until they hit near refusal. So it's really a stiff and sturdy condition. And those piles are then used to support the superstructure that then the decking and the joists and the framing really set on. So the foundation with those piles and the superstructure that attaches to it with steel members would be very robust and solid for those wave conditions. What I think the concern, or the second part of that, would be the treads and the risers themselves with the decking and the planks, that could be exposed to that wave action as well. And those could take on some forces that could create some issues. We would look at the final design of that system to ensure that it provides suitable protection against that. But yes, they are coming down across the revetment to provide that access. So we'd have to look at how that really engages or traverses that revetment to provide the suitable protection. Now, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I know our team has looked into it and will continue to look into it.
But that's the designed intent right now,
Yeah.
is to provide a product out of steel, that the steel will be okay. And when we say steel, are we in 5 years looking at having to replace it because it's rusting? Or, I mean, there's that component of steel, right? Or do we have steel that doesn't rust?
That's, obviously steel corrodes. But we've done these systems, many applications and marine applications, not only on the Great Lakes, but even kind of in saltwater conditions, which are much more corrosive.
Sure.
And had great success with these. So again, I apologize, I don't have all the answers for you, but I know our team will be looking into those aspects and can follow up with suitable answers for you.
Okay, one last question about steps or stairs.
I did flip back to this because I think the upper left probably gives the best view of what we're talking about.
Yeah. If we had, not thinking about cost, right, just what is the better system or structure to access the beach via stairs? What is the best way to do it? Not is it concrete? Is it stone? Is it the steel and wood as you guys are proposing right now? What's the best way to get down there?
And when you say the most durable, is that what you're trying to get at?
Durability, right. Because, I mean, the revetment is going to be around for
a generation, we hope.
50 years.
Can I
40
interrupt
years?
for a moment, though?
Yeah.
But in terms of also beyond durability, I think we really have to talk about safety, because if they are stone and are subject to wave action, everything I've seen with stone, they become a sheet of ice from the water. And I guess my question is, is the stone less safe in terms of ice buildup or wood, or is there the same risks for both products? Because that to me is a very big concern, because I have walked on stone steps frequently near the lake where they're just not. I have not walked because I cannot walk because of the ice buildup on them.
Yeah, I think what you're describing, and I think Commissioner Duffy is also describing this, is you're talking about professional or commercial application. Some of us are familiar with the residential application. You mentioned that the stonework is typically a residential application that performs very well, not appropriate for public use in the professional engineer's perspective. One of the notions, and I just had the opportunity, Bill, to look up your profile, and Maurizio to look up yours. You have obviously extensive professional engineering experience in many applications and much larger applications than the one we're talking about. And so while I think you've noted you're not structural engineers, I'm fairly confident your firm would recommend things that would endure beyond 5 years. Is that a fair assumption?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Our structural engineer is not here today, but they have thoroughly reviewed this and done detailed design and calculations looking at the design life. So we can get back to you what those design parameters that we set are, and the basis of design for this stair system, if that's something that would be helpful for the board to consider.
I think there would be good information for us to have, none of us having the experience that you guys have, right? Just because we look at what you drew and what we conceptualize it to be, and what you're conceptualizing is entirely different than what obviously we are thinking, because your description is so much better than what I'm imagining.
Fair enough. I did want to go back to your question, and I think you started with if cost was no option.
Right.
No.
What's the best way
right?
to create stairs through a revetment or?
And I don't want to be obscure about this, but I think it really depends on the conditions and the goals for each specific project or application. Because if cost really isn't an obstacle, then any system really could be fortified and appropriately designed for safety, with enhanced measures. So I'm not sure that there's one system that would perform better than the other. In the instance of Langdon, we thought that the steel piles, the stair system with steel supported piles with this steel framing would give the most value and the most robust design for this application. And like I said, we can follow up with that basis of design if that's something that the commissioners want to consider.
If I recall,
Or just understand that better.
If I recall, an earlier meeting, there were presentations of different materials with different pricings, and the conclusion, and there was a final conclusion that different materials were the best suited for this location too. So you've apparently gone through this exercise within, your own engineers and came to conclusions.
We have thoroughly vetted it in-house, but if we need to present some more information to you, whether it's at another meeting or just a follow-up information through Steve, we can do that so you're comfortable with this process and the selection.
Yeah, I believe that was either the March or April review of the recommendations that were provided. So
I'm sorry for 1 second.
Commissioners, could you speak up? You're speaking among yourselves. You couldn't hear the last couple comments.
Thank you. We'll make sure we speak
spoke right into the.
Yes.
I did want to note, having sat in that location, it's hard to hear with the ventilation. It is a little bit better around the fourth row and forward, if it's hard to hear.
Sorry, back up since I'm standing back here.
Thank you.
I would like to hear, though, the comments between Commissioner Parker.
My comments were that the engineers had provided engineers had provided a breakdown of different materials and pros and cons of using each material, and then coming to providing a conclusion of what they consider to be the best material for use in this. So I think that was Commissioner Goebel said she thought it was March or April Lakefront Committee meeting, but so I'm just saying that the engineers have already considered this, and I will just, as an aside, I think it's been 2.5 years, 3 years since you've been retained by, and I have always been very impressed by your expertise, your professionalism, and your in-depth work on the different issues facing the lakefront and the different water levels, and our challenges there.
Yeah, that there may be an opportunity for our board to revisit all of the past meetings and minutes, just to refresh ourselves, as well as we continue through the public process, highlighting those for the community as we work to build a better outcome.
Yeah, and thank you for those remarks. As mentioned, I believe it has been thoroughly vetted, or I know it has, and that has been presented in front of in this forum previously, so that information is available. But if there's any question or additional information that is requested, please let us know, and we will make sure to get that to you so you can consider it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the stairs, or I'm going to move on maybe to the next topic. And so the access path, I alluded to it earlier several slides ago, but there are questions about what's the appropriate material for the path. We currently show concrete in our plans, but could there be a softer solution, maybe a stabilized path, aggregate path of some sort that's, again, stabilized? We really feel that concrete is the best approach or solution for this path. I mentioned that the north end in particular might have some overtopping from time to time in those very severe storms. And also, or because of that, we feel that concrete is really going to perform the best. A stabilized aggregate of some sort will still have some rills and kind of runnels that are created from stormwater runoff. not only from the slope above, but also just direct rainfall on the path itself. So for those reasons, we really feel that concrete is the best solution. It's also actually, let me advance to the next one. I wanted to show an example of what that path could look like and feel more so on as a slope. And I know slope is hard to perceive many times in photos, but on the right-hand side is something that's, I'm sure, familiar to all. It's the pathway down just north of the Wallace Bowl at Gilson, and that is an accessible path, to my understanding. So again, hard to perceive sometimes slope in photos, but that would be the same approximate slope that we're looking at for this path. The difference being that we would look to do the path at Langdon is all concrete, not a mixture of materials. Concrete is much easier to, for construction purposes, to be able to construct that or install that pathway. You can pump the concrete down the slope or, kind of remote application. And it'd be much harder and more intrusive to get a asphalt paving machine down there, and not only for the initial installation, but for maintenance purposes. So for those reasons, we think concrete is the way to go here.
So if I could clarify, just from some of the discussions that I've heard, it is helpful to understand what the engineers recommend the best path would be in terms of durability and protection. But I think what I'm looking to understand is additional options that may not be the strongest or the most secure, but what else are other options that could be more consistent with the character of the park that could still be a durable path? Maybe not the most durable, but is that something that you have explored? Whether it's, permeable pavers that grass or, some type of vegetation can grow within, that has little holes in it or something, or, maybe it's not the smoothest, or maybe it wouldn't last as long as a paved surface. But did you explore other options and surfaces?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Certainly we did, and I'll try to speak to those. We always like to look at permeable paving solutions, just by nature being an engineer that really focuses on stormwater. Trying to look at permeable solutions where we can infiltrate is something that's always top of mind for me personally. Our concern in this application is for permeable paving systems, whether it's pavers or permeable concrete or permeable asphalt or anything. The success of that system really relies on keeping those openings free of any debris, anything that would clog it up. Once it's clogged up, it basically acts as a hard surface like concrete or asphalt. And then you lose the benefit of your stormwater infiltration. And with the sand there and the wind coming off the lake, it's just going to pick up that sand and drop it right on top. Or likely will not only be a maintenance challenge, but also create a situation where those openings in the permeable paving would get clogged more readily than if you were at like a parking lot inland.
If I could
so
jump
that's
in.
a big factor.
So the question that I heard was not just a specific option, say permeable pavers, but are there other options other than concrete that would still be durable, maybe not quite as durable, but might be more aesthetically pleasing? Because I know your answer sort of focused on one particular possibility, but I saw it as more of a general question. Is that right?
And let me get to some other options.
Sure.
We talked about like a stabilized aggregate path. Those are often stabilized with polymers from time to time. We've done those successfully in other applications. Again, I noted that they are going to experience some erosion in a heavy rain, and when stormwater comes down that slope, you will get some erosion, and it'll create some instability and not only a maintenance challenge, but eventually it's going to create some access issues. we could look at pavers that are not permeable, that maybe have a little softer aesthetic, or different patterns. But those are going to create a much higher price point. So there's the cost aspect. Those also may need to be installed on a concrete base itself. So that's really almost two paving systems in one to create suitable foundation and really that stability that you're looking at. I think we also considered, forgive me, it's slipping my mind at the moment. We could look at just timber decking all the way down. That would be more in line with a natural kind of aesthetic with the park. Obviously, that is also a cost concern where you're installing, additional piles all the way down that would support the framing and then the decking over top. So that's, again, at a much higher price point than the concrete. Certainly could work, though, but that not only the price initial cost, but it poses some maintenance challenges going forward. Are there other options that the commissioners wanted to consider, or?
I think that's very helpful. I appreciate the extra detail.
Thank you.
Certainly. So, unless there are other questions about the path materials, we'll go on to our next topic. And this one, we certainly received a number of questions about the vegetation and not only the character of the existing vegetation, but what impacts we would have to that existing vegetation. And so we wanted to address that. Now, here and in the packet, I apologize, this slide noted that there would be only 2 tree removals. That has been corrected, and I've specifically highlighted that there in the color, that we would actually have 4 trees that would need to be removed as part of the current plan that's put forward here. And so the 2 trees that we originally identified are at the very north end. One is that fallen tree that's obviously shouldn't have, needs to be removed anyway. A second was an additional tree that was right next to that fallen tree on that very north end. When we looked at the switchback, and let me go to this graphic. Again, I apologize. This was added. I added this slide in. It's not in the packet that you have, but we can provide this so it gets into the meeting notes. But I added this in because it really speaks to this issue about the vegetation itself. So we've identified the 2 additional trees on the south that would likely be impacted. I stress likely. The reason being, when we introduced the switchback, it also not only eased the slope, but it creates much more cut into that slope. And so we'd have to regrade that back to where the yellow line is. And I'm sorry if that's a little bit hard to see, but the yellow line represents our grading limits. And so we would be cutting where those 2 existing trees are with those red X's on the south end. Now, I said likely because we could look at some options similar to a previous concept that we showed where we had some retaining benches, and these would need to be a little bit more height, so these might be more like walls. But we could look at that to preserve these trees and minimize the cutting or the grading around those trees, and to preserve them as they currently exist. So it's not a must remove, but it's something that we would need to look at carefully. But further to this, this exhibit not only shows the tree removals, it also shows the yellow line of the grading limits that I mentioned, but the green line that's lakeside of that, for the most part, is the extent of the existing vegetation. So where those lines overlap I've hatched that in the light green there, and that would be the impacted zone for the existing vegetation. Now that's pretty thick material. Of course, it looks pretty lush and very green, and I think that's why it is such of concern. So you're seeing that on plan of what that zone that would actually be impacted. I do want to note that the vast majority of that material, particularly in the lower portion of the bluff, is invasive species. We haven't done an exact catalog of all the material out there, or inventory, I should say, but there's a large presence of honeysuckle that is invasive. That's the really dominant plant that's through that space, and removing that would be really advantageous for the ecology benefits and just the vegetative management for that, the park overall. I'm sorry with the feedback of the mic, but so I did want to point that out. I know there were a number of questions about vegetation, and we hope that this exhibit, which again we'll get to you for inclusion in the notes, adequately addresses that. But any questions on this topic?
Yeah, I think I would note we would prefer to preserve any of the trees that we can. I am in agreement, though, on the invasive species. We have a huge opportunity to plant native species, or those that are more appropriate long term for the vegetation. But I think with respect to the trees, if we can add benching, for example, or other features that would help preserve that, I know this board member would want to.
Yes.
And I think others would too.
I would second that. I have a question just for those of us, if you can help us understand. I know a lot of us have been down on the beach, and when you are on the sand looking up at the park, there are the rocks, and then there's the vegetation, and that goes up, and then the big trees are a little bit further back. But there are significant, some smaller trees and significant root system, at the beginning of all of the vegetation. So can you just help us understand what changes are going to be made and how that, when we're looking at that, how that's going to be impacted?
Sure, I'll do my best. Maybe the next slide here will help us get a visual here. The photo on the left is at the toe of the bluff on the north end, looking at that vegetation in question. And actually, it's a very similar photo that we had early on, where that one tree has fallen, that you can see that in the foreground there. So I think, Commissioner, this is speaking to what you're talking about. There's the presence of some trees on the slope, and certainly at the top of the slope, you can see that. Where exactly they're positioned, it may be a little bit hard to tell because of how thickly vegetated that slope is, and the understory is in this photo. But speaking to the impacts that, your question specifically, we certainly would need to clear much of that out, where the majority of the impact would be kind of bookending the existing pathway down there, because that's where the majority of the grading will occur. As we extend to the north, you can see that narrows down quite a bit, where we're down to the grade that we need to achieve, and it's really just clearing out to make way for the path itself and the crest of the revetment. So at that point, it's on average about 6 feet wide that we'd be clearing. What that means visually, like how it's going to look in a difference from how it is today, I guess is hard to maybe say in words. I wish I had a rendering of what that might look like.
So sorry to jump in, but just to break it down, so like the rocks along the vegetation, will those be altered? Those will
The
be.
existing armor stone rocks.
Yes, yes.
So,
Please keep going. I'm going to flip back to the section of our revetment because I think that might help.
Just to help you answer the question.
yeah.
So right now you see very green, but it's mainly invasive species. So you have honeysuckle, you have wild grapevines that are actually harming the trees that are there. And then when winter comes, they have very poor root systems, and that allows for between the rocks to get erosion, and actually it's going to look different. It's not going to look as green in the summer, but it's actually going to help save the trees because the native vegetation has a deeper root system that allows stabilization of the bank there where the trees are.
And what about the healthy trees and plants that do have a good root system along the rocks there? Will any of those?
As Bill said, we have not carried out an inventory and we don't know exactly what are the healthy plants that are there, but we do know that there's a lot of invasive species that cover that area and that are damaging whatever's there. So it's a give or take.
Yeah, and sorry I'm just trying to understand, to translate sort of the drawings into what we see. So, are the rocks going to stay that are there?
No.
Okay.
They will be reused in
Okay.
the present plan.
And will that, and how will the placement change?
It will, so it'd be a more ordered revetment type placement. It'd be a little bit more, the amount of stones will be a little bit more dense than what you currently see because we don't want to have those large gaps that allow the waves to erode the sandy bank behind it.
But will they be in the same location or will they be closer to the water?
No, they would. We are trying to keep the toe where the
Same
toe
location.
is. Yeah, so that's we're pulling back. That's why we have the bank excavation. If we'd want to keep those in species, and then we'd have to move out into the beach area, it would be we'd make the beach disappear, and it'd be also a permitting nightmare too.
Okay, so.
Maybe,
Go ahead.
maybe she's asking, with the new stones, perhaps heavier additional weight with the stronger revetment, is there any concern of the weight or the placement damaging the root structure of the mature trees higher up on the bluff? Is that
No,
what you're
I mean,
asking?
there are trees and vegetation close to the rocks. I'm wondering, for the healthy ones, can those remain?
It'd be very hard, the ones that would go into revetment. And to be honest, it'd be very hard. That's heavy construction. They need to remove they need to excavate the toe that we have there, and they need to place those stones. We will certainly in our technical specifications mandate the contractor to salvage the vegetation there and to establish well limits. But what's in the footprint of the revetment, it'd be very hard to keep that.
So again, just following up with that, you showed a diagram that showed 4 trees being removed now, but I know there are a number of trees near the bottom. Specifically, there's a series of 3 oak trees in the middle of that length, very close to the stone. You haven't done an inventory of any of those trees near the bottom, but your expectation is that those would not be salvaged. Is that correct?
So we're actually not sure about the location of those 3 oak trees. We do have an inventory from the Park District that was shared with us that shows the location of all the trees out there and the species that's been identified. But the 3 oak trees in
You're not sure
question,
where they are. Okay.
I'm not sure.
I have
which
a picture
ones
of them. That's not going to do us any good today, though, because I can't place them in the
That would
love
be
to-
part of the work.
Yeah.
I would
That
love to
be part of
understand
the
that better.
inventory,
Sure.
wouldn't it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So I have a question about the bluff itself, and what we're trying to achieve right now is stopping any further erosion in the event of this wave action that we anticipate coming sometime between now and the end of time. So if we do nothing at all to that bluff, is it going to continue? If we do a revetment and we do nothing at all to the bluff, is the bluff going to continue to erode or deteriorate, or will it stabilize based on the existing plants that are there?
Just to clarify before, so the trees that are all shown in the survey, those were in part of the inventory. What's not in the inventory is all the small shrubs and small growth. So that's the one that I'm referring to. Now, Commissioner Patrick, your question is quite complicated. We know the lake levels, mean average lake levels, monthly lake levels have gone down since 2020 2 feet.
Right.
However, in most locations, and particularly here, and I just went there to walk over the beach has not recovered substantially. The 2 feet of mean lake levels that have receded have not caused, which are back to the 2017 lake levels almost. We do not have the beach width that we had in 2017. So there's a lot of human impact along the shoreline that have caused depletion of sand in the Great Lakes and in Lake Michigan. So the rate at which we will get the beach back is probably slow. And so today we had waves, and the waves were reaching the toe of the stones, and it was a minor storm. In October, November, another large storm, even with this lake levels, the bluff, in my opinion, it's at risk still. What's going to happen next year with the lake levels? No one knows. There are a lot of models and climatological models that indicate that climate change might cause more precipitation, and there are some certainty that we will see in the next 10 years lake levels like we saw in 2020, and the probability is quite high. So it's very likely that we will see that, and there are models that say that we will see more. And so we are considering those scenarios in the recommendation to do this revetment here.
So I'm not questioning whether we do the revetment. I'm saying if we only do the revetment, okay, and that's going to protect further erosion by the lake, right, or wave action.
Yeah.
Is the bluff going to stay as it is, or is it going to continue to deteriorate?
No, it should stay as it is.
Okay.
That revetment will protect the bluff, and it will stop the wave action from eroding the revetment.
But the bluff just, we have rainstorms and stuff. The bluff will not continue to deteriorate.
The path itself is also part of the stormwater control system.
Understood. So it was posed to us in a previous meeting that the current design with the path running along the length of the bluff is going to help the stabilization of the bluff. But my question is, if we do only the revetment and we don't do the path and we don't clear anything out, we just leave it and let it grow wild.
You might get from storm runoff events channels in the bluff, flowing through the revetment. But the key part for protecting the bluff here, the revetment is the bluff is the revetment itself.
Right. I fully understand that the revetment is totally key here to protect it from the lake. So we're protecting it from the lake as best we can with the revetment. So the question stands, what happens to the bluff in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? If we do nothing else to it other than put the revetment in, will the bluff be stable? Or is the bluff unstable right now?
It is stable.
It's generally stable. I think there would need to be a few spot areas that may need to be addressed. And then the big one is that existing access down.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a lot of erosion there. And so solving the upland stormwater is a big part of that to stabilize that area. But you're right, if we just do the revetment, no access path, the bluff will be generally stable. Again, maybe some spot areas that need to be addressed.
Right.
That's essentially option 1,
Right.
or option A1
Yeah.
and A2, where we showed those options without the access path.
The reason I asked this question is a lot of the emails that we've received from residents that live in the immediate area of this park don't want to see any change to happen to it. They want it like it was. And to get it like it was, we have to fix the access as it is, because that's deteriorated from rain runoff and just neglect over the years that it hasn't been used. But the worry that we, I think, had, at least I had, I should say, as a board member, was that I was under the impression that the bluff itself was not stable, and that we were, in addition to the revetment, we were going to do work on the bluff to help stabilize it from any further deterioration. That was my impression walking into tonight's meeting.
I think that's correct currently, that because of the bluff currently is not stable.
But I just asked that question. I was told it
Well,
is.
but that's when if the revetment is added, that will stabilize.
It's not
it, but
stable
current-
because the toe is eroding. And so if that toe is left unrepaired and unprotected, then your bluff is at risk of continual erosion. And eventually, you may lose the bluff.
Fully understand that aspect of it. So going back to what the residents are asking is, why do we have to, change the whole look of the bluff? Why can't we just leave it alone and fix the problem that we have, which is the revetment, and provide access to the beach? So so my question to you, and like I said, my understanding walking to this meeting was, I thought I had heard at previous meetings that we needed to have this path to help stabilize the bluff beyond just the revetment. And so what I'm hearing right now is that's not what is true, that the bluff, once we do the revetment, the bluff is stable as it is because of the vegetation's there. We might have some rivulets that get created from upland runoff in a minor degree, similar to what the current path runoff has deteriorated into, but it'll be smaller ones that will create their own path. Water finds its own way in your house, in your backyard, whatever. Is that kind of
Can I
correct?
interrupt for a minute too? Because Patrick, I just wanted to. I think we explained before. I mean, there were these three options presented to us, and there was a number of discussion at the Lakefront Committee, and I think that we came to the conclusion that the option of the path was the preferred option because it did add to the stabilization of the bluff, and that access is. It is necessary to create the access because people will access that beach, and apparently are currently accessing that beach, even though there isn't we have fencing there to keep it there, so that people are going to access that beach whether or not there is some sort of access on it. So that when you had a presentation that preferred that provided an accessible pathway. ADA compliant that could benefit any of our residents who have mobility issues, that would help stabilize the bluff. It was determined that was perhaps a preferred way to do it. Honestly, I mean, I'm totally happy. I mean, my first decision was to be stairs. My first thought was, why don't we have stairs like Winnetka has stairs? Then I asked then about doing a switchback. I think all of us kind of agreed that the pathway, because of the ADA accessibility and the fact that we have to have access to the beach, was a good way to do it. But it wasn't that the stabilization wasn't the reason we chose that. It was because of a confluence of issues that this seemed to solve. But I am more than happy to do some other type of access. But it's just I think that access is essential because the Park District needs to provide supervision. Previously, for many, many years, there was no Park District supervision there, and it created a lot of problems, which the Park District had to then make this a paid beach, provide the supervision
to resolve some of those issues.
I'm not trying to argue with how we got here. I'm just trying to confirm or deny my understanding of what we are doing and what I thought we had achieved.
You said that, but you did specifically say that you understood that the path was stabilization, and I don't think that's. Yeah, and Maurizio's, yes, thank you so much.
Just 1 second to clarify. The path does assist in stabilization.
Yes.
So the top crest elevation is at 588.
Yes.
If the lake levels go up to 582 again, and we have a 11th of January storm like we had, and we have 2 foot of storm surge, so now we are at 584. So any small wave that's 2 or 3 feet is going to go on top, and it's going to go onto the.
It's going to hit the bluff.
It's going to hit the bluff. So in extreme storm, extreme condition scenarios that have a short recurrence of probability, they will storms waves might be able to go on top of the revetment, and the path helps into holding that overtopping. So it does assist there. It's a additional safety feature, but in itself, the revetment is the key to stabilizing the
fully understand
the
the revetment. So maybe I took the statement of the path helps stabilize and thought that we had an unstable bluff, and that in this design, the path was part of the solution to the problem.
So the geotechnical studies do indicate that the bluff is stable. Factor of safety is above the recommended values. However, the path assists and helps in protecting the bluff for very extreme events.
So it's my misunderstanding of some parts of what I heard in a meeting that brought me to the conclusion that I had. Okay.
You can design a revetment that will protect the bluff without the path. And the bluff is stable so long as we rebuild the revetment, which has significantly deteriorated. Great.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
You did, though, mention that trees are at risk. Is that, I think just earlier tonight, did I hear you correctly that some of the trees are at risk? Is it because of the slope or the conditions of the bluff, or why are some trees at risk?
If the toe of the slope, if the revetment wasn't done, there would continue to be erosion that would occur, and then those would be at risk.
And the path, would that in any way with the grade, you have to grade the walkway into the bluff. Do you go deep enough to hit any roots of vegetation or trees, or in any way potentially harm or put anything at risk?
That's where the 2 trees on the south that I mentioned would likely need to be removed. Yes, those would be impacted. But I stress likely because we could look at a scenario where we could put some retaining structures around them and protect them. We just need to study that a little bit more, or make sure that we can do that appropriately so we preserve the health of the trees.
Thank you.
One more point of clarification, though. When we went back to the slide that showed the downed tree and the example of the deep-rooted 23 in my packet.
Speak a little louder.
Can't get closer.
Keep going.
Okay, there's another slide, but the discussion that Commissioner Anderson was asking about the vegetation that's right near the revetment today, we talked about would those vegetation be damaged, and likely they would need to be removed. So to be clear, whether we put a path across the switchback, across the length or not, just refilling the armor stone and creating the new revetment is going to impact this vegetation regardless. Is that what I'm understanding? Just so that we're clear, that the look is going to change in some capacity at the lowest level, no matter what.
But it will impact less vegetation without the path than with the path.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes. So both of you are correct, yes.
But the area you were specifically asking about that's right against those stones today would be impacted in any scenario, is what I'm understanding.
Because they have to dig into the bluff for the stones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at risk
I just want to make
of-
sure we're all on the same page here.
I promise I'm not backtracking, but I think this section helps understand that a little bit. Where, this dash line is the existing slope, and we would be installing the revetment, of course, with the walk behind it, and then placing some of the salvaged armor stone here. And that's where we would tie into the existing slope. And then all of the existing vegetation from this point upland or upward would remain in place. So yes, there's impact to the existing vegetation here, but this portion remains in place.
And again, because this is just one snapshot, this is maybe 3/4 of the way to the north. If you did that same snapshot 3/4 of the way to the south, that would be much higher up the bluff because that's where the path is starting. So the further south you go, the more of that green area above this would be impacted because the elevation is going to be higher. Is that correct?
That's yep.
Great.
That's a great point.
And that
that's
new
what-
slide, yeah,
I'm sorry
I
to
think
keep
you're going
jumping
the
around.
same place. The new slide that you've shown us up here tonight, which has all that extra green shading, is this to scale in that I can look at the black, which is the 8-foot path, and I can approximate that up on the north, we might be 10, 12, 14 width, and then as we come south, obviously there's a very wide swath, but we can visually eyeball that against the black 8-foot path.
Yes, it is to scale. And the path itself may be a little bit hard to see because of the graphic itself and how light the path is. But the 8-foot wide path does overlap with the vegetation line, the green line. So it's a little bit hard to see. I mentioned the average width of, it's a little bit hard to see on those other monitors. But the average width on this north portion is about 6 feet wide where we'd clear the vegetation. Certainly it is wider than that in some areas. Maybe it's 8-10 feet wide in some areas, but it is to scale. But noticeably it widens out here where we're doing some more cutting into the slope.
What is that?
yeah.
I'm sorry. What is the black curved cross-hatched?
Cross-hatched area.
I mean, I know not the one near the water, because I assume that's the revetment, but yes, thank you, Mike. That what is that?
This here?
Yeah, that goes all the way to then goes all the way to the north. And it keeps going.
That's what I thought that was the path.
Yeah, maybe that's what's creating the confusion.
Yeah. So I'm curious what that. I'm just
So-
curious what that is, because I think a lot of people are confused or feeling that that's what the path is. That's what I think a lot of. I suspect a lot of. Yeah, no, it's not. No, I'm realizing that, but I suspect a lot of people are thinking that black line is the path.
Yeah, and
that's
I-
caused some of the unhappiness or the concern people. And Maurizio, yes, please, thank you.
Sorry, in a cross-section, the path would be elevated. So that's actually a slope that goes from the path down. So it's sort of a fill area. If you go to a cross-section that would be not as north as the one that we've been showing, so the path would be a little bit higher, and then there would be a little drop till it reached the revetment. The revetment, in order to keep the quantity of stones as low as possible, remains at the same height. The path does not. So when the path is elevated, it needs a slope to go downward towards the revetment.
It's that shaded area or that dark area is showing that angled or sloped area.
Okay.
Right,
So
and so-
so it's basically a representation of the vertical. It's not any type of path or anything. Okay.
And
Yes.
so
Thank you.
the stone
Thank
is
you.
in the same place as it is now. As you get further to the south, there's going to be more of the bluff that we're taking back to get up to the path.
Which would be replanted.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Thank you. That helps a lot.
I think that's very helpful. Please proceed.
Thank you. So, yes, we talked quite a bit about vegetation, but I'm going to move on to our last topic of the questions that you've asked us. And that was really about the procurement strategy and what the approach is there. So we touched on that a little bit earlier when we talked about alternatives and how those might come into play. We were also asked about the feasibility of providing temporary access now and then doing the revetment work a little bit later on. Is that a feasible scenario, and how would that be implemented? And just doing the basic revetment work now really would pose a challenge. There are a couple issues with that. First, it's just more economical and easier for construction to do everything in one single phase or a single project, just for the efficiency and also for to be the least disruptive. Of course, if you do it in multiple phases, you're going to have additional disruption of areas that you just restored. There's also concern of the permit itself. We have permits in hand from the Corps of Engineers, and so if we were to change that or look at different configurations, we would have to go back and revisit that permit and go through that process again.
But that's just for the revetment. Going back to the Army Corps of Engineers is just revetment, not
Correct.
Path or stairs or vegetation.
That's correct. I guess lastly, just, the idea of inflation is kind of top of mind throughout all communities these days, and it's certainly impacting the construction industry as well. And we've seen significant rises in really across the board, but particularly with certain materials have definitely experienced inflation or just higher costs. We have seen that level off a little bit in some key areas for this project, notably the armor stone. While it hasn't returned to pre-pandemic unit costs, it has leveled off where it's not accelerating as quickly as we've seen it over the last 12 to 18 months. So that's a good indicator, but of course we don't know where that's going in the future. So if we can bid the project now and really understand what the market is in today's pricing, we think that's advantageous because certainly costs could continue to rise in the future. I hope I answered all those questions, but are there any others kind of on the procurement side?
I have one question for you that I wrote down early in your presentation when we were first talking about access. I don't know if you can tell us this, but would you be able to give us an idea of what the slope was? What was the old path? What was the angle of the slope of the old path that accessed it? I know that we say it was steep, but just so that there's a comparison in mind.
I don't have that exact slope, and I don't want to misquote it. I know it was greater than 5% for sure, and it was. I'm confident that it was greater than even 8%, because I was on a team that studied it previously, and we looked at maybe doing a series of steps, or there would be with handrails and ramp system, and it exceeded that at that point as well, which is a maximum of 8.3%. So it would exceed 8.3. So you're probably in the 10% range. That's my guess.
Okay.
We can follow up with that exact number.
It was just, when, you're trying to imagine things, right? To say, okay, I'm used to walking this. My recollection was, at this point it was a little bit quick, but then we slowed down. Well, to say that was 10% and what we're getting to is 5%, or to say that was 15 and we're getting to 10, it just, kind of conceptually trying to help build a picture. That's all I was trying to grasp at.
Well, that first concept B, that showed an access path on the south side was indicated a 12.5% max slope. So would that have been anticipated, do you remember, to be steeper or on par with what was there today? I guess in my mind, I assumed that to be similar to today. I don't know why you would increase the slope.
You mean existing?
Correct.
Yeah, but
To try to ballpark to your question.
I think it's similar. I know on that slide, we noted 12.5 maximum, so there would be some variation in that. So it is probably pretty similar to that.
And as a point of reference, the path down at Gilson is not ADA compliant, so that's more than 5%. It may not be, I don't think it's 12%, but it's somewhere in between, just FYI.
Which pathway to?
The one you had the photo of earlier.
Right,
It's technically not ADA compliant.
It's not ADA compliant, so that's a steeper path than the one that we had been contemplating.
At least in sections.
In sections.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I misquoted that one then.
No,
because
I didn't. I didn't say
that
you
was
did. We were just sort
a
of
little
comparing
steeper.
notes. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm sure there are some other questions. I know I've still got a couple, but so many people out here have been waiting so patiently. I thought that maybe we would open up to public comment and then we can follow up with some additional questions. Is there anything else in your presentation?
slides.
I know. Go ahead.
I'll be very
Okay.
brief.
The timetable
We want to
slides.
cover this.
Sure.
If you prefer to let
go
any
ahead.
member speak first, that's totally fine. But we do want to talk about where we are today in the process and potential ways to move forward. So that was the intent of these next two slides. This first one being, with the "You Are Here" indicator. That's us tonight. We've got our design virtually complete. We could get that out on the street for bidding fairly quickly. Again, it's gone through the permitting process. There are a couple local permits that we need to get from the village, but those we feel confident can be done concurrently with the bidding process, and they're actually underway at this time. So that window is very narrow, but still allows us to get the project out for bid. If we get favorable bidding, look at award and actually do construction or start construction this fall. We're still in that window, but it is shrinking very quickly. If we look at revisiting some things and going through some additional evaluation, that window certainly closes, and we would be looking more at a bid in the winter or this coming winter, with construction to start in the springtime.
Or potentially starting in the following fall, so there's access during the summer. We could certainly push it back. This would be the soonest we could do that, right?
Yeah, that's better said. Yes.
Great.
So I've spoken a lot. Thank you for your time.
And I think we will probably have a few more questions, but let's give folks here a chance to. Thank you very much.
I can have some follow-up, but I'll
This is extremely
relinquish
helpful.
the podium.
And the additional
Thank you, Bill. Thank you,
exhibits were very
Maurizio.
helpful as well. Thank you so much. Could I see a show of hands of folks that would like to address us? You already had your, I'm kidding. So again, show of hands, who wants to address us? Okay, great. Again, as I typically do, I'll start on the right side in the front and work my way back, and then over to the left side as I'm facing out. So Alan, step right up.
No, I have a question. It's actually a follow-up on Commissioner Anderson's question.
You need to speak to the
I'm sorry, it's Alan Goldman. So, Commissioner Anderson, I think you were referring to this picture right here, and I don't think your question got answered. I count 8 trees in the back here. There's all the scrub in the front, I get that, but there's 8 trees back here. And my question is, are those trees still going to be there?
The answer is yes on that.
The trees at the top of the
Because they're at
bluff.
the top of the
My
bluff.
understanding is those are
Yes.
trees at the top of the bluff and that they're not going to be touched.
I just want to make sure, because your question was never directly answered.
These trees right here.
Yes, those trees will remain, yeah, at the top of the bluff. And I'll just stay up front.
Okay, great. Please, yes.
Good evening, my name's Amy Boyer, 1028 Sheridan, and a longtime resident. I've been playing on the beaches since 1974. Oh. I've been playing on the beaches since 1974. I have a quick handout of 3 pictures for you to look at.
Oops.
We can pass them down if you want to speed it up.
Sammy.
Okay, the first picture was taken a few days ago. That's of the old entranceway from the water looking forward. Now, if you compare that to the next picture, which is from 2010, and you can see that the sand goes all the way to the top of that entryway. So I want you to think about the future of the beach as the water level goes back down in its normal 30-year cycle. So anything you build now will eventually be covered with sand.
We hope.
Yes, we hope. So if you think about that path in Concept C and you look at the picture, you can see as the sand replenishes, the natural beach grass and young cottonwood trees grow over it. So that path, as the engineer said, as the water and the wind brings the sand up, naturally the beach plants grow back, and that stabilizes the beach. So I'm here to say, please do not choose Concept C. Concept B, with the steeper path that sort of follows the original entryway, makes much more sense because you can see as the sand comes back, it won't be a steep path anymore. All right, I also wanted to speak to the trees that are there. I would hope we could stop saying it's full of invasives without having a forester or a naturalist or someone really do an inventory of what's there, because I can see that there are 4 oaks. It's full of staghorn sumac. If anyone knows what that is, that's a native plant to Illinois. It's supposed to grow on bluffs. It stabilizes the bluff. I was an early volunteer at Elmwood Dunes, and we took advice from the Audubon Society, Open Lands, expertise from Go Green to learn about what the ecosystem's like. And the Village of Wilmette hired a landscape architect who was a bluff expert, and guess what they planted? Oak trees and staghorn sumac to stabilize the bluff. You have it there now. Please don't take it out to build a path. Thank you.
Thank you. Next row on my right. All right, in the back row. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to say hello. My name is Dean Lindsay, 808 Chestnut. I'm about 500 feet from the beach.
They can't hear you now.
Okay.
There we go.
Can you hear me? Okay, it means I got to lean in. I'm here to represent about 24 neighbors and friends who are not here tonight, unfortunately. I'd love for them to be here, but I'm going to speak in their behalf and my behalf too, because quite frankly, in listening to the design presentation, which I respect because I'm a designer too, I think we've almost thrown the baby out with the bathwater, frankly. None of us know the future of the lake or the impact of it, but we know things are changing. And we know today we have Langdon to protect, and we know it's a gift, it's a treasure. I just found out this week from somebody that Langdon was given by the Wilmette ancestors in 1875 to the city as a gift to protect and not to destroy. And I think some of the things I'm seeing and hearing today are going to destroy what we have as a valuable asset, which we don't really respect. When I see paths and cement and stairs, and I just don't buy it because I don't like it. Don't destroy the bluff. I guess that's the thing that I'm hopeful that we are hearing me say and representing the thoughts of our neighbors. Because by digging out the bluff, which is an incredibly expensive proposition, that's the cost of that 1.8 million. I'd say $1 million of it is digging it out. And I don't know, I'm not going to ask for a yes or a no because we don't know. But I think that's the majority of the cost of this project. We can do things more simple, keep our costs less, change the bluff less, and still do the kind of protection that we need for the things that are in the future, which we don't know, but we know are changing. We also, in my opinion, we need to restore access to the beach, and we can do this by May of next year. And let's do it exactly the way we've got it right now. The access should be in the same place. The pebble path, stone stairs, not wood stairs like Winnetka. I did Winnetka and I thought, wow, this is fantastic, but it's not fantastic. It doesn't fit with Langdon. Langdon is a natural space. This business about ADA, we don't need anything ADA at Langdon. We've got it at Gilson. That path that I saw on the picture, I love that path. If I had a skateboard, I'd go down it. And I walk it often, but we don't want that at Langdon. We want natural materials. If Jens Jensen was here today instead of dead in 1950, he would approach this in a very naturalistic way. He would protect the village's asset and treasure rather than overdevelop it. This plan is overdevelopment.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anybody else on this side who'd like to speak with us?
My name is Bob Reichner. I live at 807, so I'm going to say some of the same things Dina said. I think the work that needs to be done is certainly to stabilize the bluff. I don't think anybody will disagree that we have to have that. We have a treasure there. We'd like to keep it. We look at that every day from our house, whether it's a revetment or exactly what the construction is. It's something that has to be done to stabilize the bluff so that we can enjoy it for many generations. One question that was just answered, which I really appreciate, is what's going to happen to the trees at the top of the bluff. And that really, to me, was not answered before tonight, and that's really a critical part of the beauty of Langdon Park. I don't think we need a concrete path. For the 47 years we've been there, it's not been ADA compliant. I don't think that really is a critical necessity. The neighborhood has survived quite well without that. I'm no expert as far as the vegetation, but to the extent that there are, to the extent that there are invasive species, obviously over time we should do what we can to replace those and make it as much a natural space. The path that is proposed, the concrete path, I see as an invitation to skateboarders and bicyclists and an unnecessary addition to a very natural space. Whether it be replacing the existing path with an updated path or some type of stair in that same general areas where the path is now, that seems to me the most reasonable way to keeping Langdon as it is. And I think beach access certainly is critical to restoring what Langdon has been for many years. But I think that the commercial beach we have is Gilson, and Langdon is a secondary beach. And I don't think the neighborhood can stand the additional population that would come by making this, what you might call, a much more inviting place. So I don't think the neighborhood can handle the increased parking, and I don't think the neighborhood would welcome that at all. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Is there a, yes, please.
Hi, my name's Jennifer Chase, and I am also on Chestnut, and I just want to say, kind of reiterate what Dean and Bob have just said, that I also think that we should keep Langdon as natural as we can. It's a beautiful beach. It's a treasure and an asset to our community. The less that we can do there to overdevelop that and add concrete paths, I'm absolutely against that. I don't think that's a great idea at all. Let's just keep Langdon the way that it is, restore, do the revetment, whatever you need to do to protect it, but keep it as natural as you can. It is the most natural beach that we have. Please, let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on this side who would like to address us? All right, moving over to, oh, yes, please.
I'm a little slower than the others.
Take your time. Come on up.
Got bad history. My wife doesn't believe it, but it's true. I usually pull that trick when I'm ready to do some yard work. Anyway, my name is John Shale, and I live at 806 Chestnut Avenue. And I think a lot of great comments have been made this evening. And one is that we want to make sure that Langdon Park stays natural. I think it's a beautiful park. We've only lived in Wilmette for 4 years, and it's been a privilege. And then the following year, the beach was closed. And that's okay, because still many others were able to enjoy the park itself. And I think the comments that I really liked this evening was the revetment plan. Let's shore up the bluff. Let's keep the bluff the way it is. And then the access path, when we first arrived, was the path, the gravel path going from west to east towards the lake. And you walk down the side of the hill. But if we could keep that gravel path and also build a stairway, I think that would solve the problem and keep it natural and rustic and something very, very special for all of the community to use. In this case, I think less is more. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side? All right, on this side over here, Beth, come on up.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
We'll share.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Okay. Beth Future, I live at 1420 Sheridan Road. Longtime Wilmette resident. I'm here not only to, in conjunction with my neighbors on the 800 block of Chestnut, but also representing the over 6,600 residents in Wilmette that voted against the referendum back in 2015 relative to Langdon. I'm not going to read the whole thing that I gave you, but I urge you to read my comments as well as the attachments there, please. A lot of what I had to say comes through, how did we get here? And I think you really need to look at it from the prism of back to prior to 2015, all the steps that led to that referendum, and then subsequent to it, the steps that we've taken. And we've had the tot lot put in Langdon. So work has been done there. But the thing that I'm very concerned about is that there might be some thought that Wilmette residents aren't concerned and aware of what's happening with this proposed project at Langdon. I think people are aware, and I just want you to be aware of the fact that the room may not be packed like then does not mean people do not care. I would say the key points from tonight are protect the bluff with the revetment, with rocks at the base of the bluff. Rebuild and restore access to the beach where it was previously. That's what the Wilmette residents want. Furthermore, don't overdevelop it below, in, or through the bluff. Save it and provide simple access to the beach at Langdon. We recognize you want to get it right. Your decisions here, we want you to get it right. Some of the reasons why we want you to get it right are historic. This piece of property, the bluff area, was given to Wilmette. There's a deed going back to 1897. It is the last remnant of Native American undeveloped, unbuilt property in Wilmette. It is tiny, but it is significant. One of the reasons why it's significant is because it demonstrates to us if we allow natural ecology to take care of our world, we will be better off for it. There is a principle called primary succession that has been ongoing, and you can see it in this land. If we let nature take its course, and we've heard from your engineers tonight that that bluff is stable, it will remain stable. The revetment work, the work down at the toe, we get it, we understand, that's to protect. But you've got a decision here. One can go one way or the other. If you put that roadway across the middle, it can either hurt and not stabilize it, or what we have is the opportunity to let nature continue its work. It's a whole lot less costly to all of us.
And Beth, could you try to wrap up? Thank you
Yep.
very much.
Okay. I've given you a couple different things that cite current thinking, why you need to plan with thoughts and materials for today, not what we've done in the past. I would also say that the concept of the ADA as being needed is really, and that it provides something helpful here is really, it fails. And here's the reason why. At Langdon, we do not have the sufficient infrastructure that is present for ADA to be accessible. We are not anti-ADA by any means. My mother lives in a wheelchair. I've taken care of her for many years. I know the problems with accessibility. I would say, though, that the access for ADA is fully met through Gilson at numerous locations in the park, as well as multiple locations at the beach, the swimming beach and the sailing beach. In the instances at the sailing beach and the swimming beach, concrete has never been poured to the water to provide ADA accessibility. When instead you have your pads that you put in each spring, they're connected with metal clips, and then you remove them at the end of the season. Nothing permanent with concrete is anywhere near the shoreline except for this proposal here. Nothing else that this park district has ever done would allow for that.
Thank you, Beth.
There are also exceptions to the ADA, which you are well aware of. If you provide it elsewhere, you don't have to provide it here. In closing, Wilmette residents have been clear as to what they want at Langdon for many years, and they expect you to follow in your work their direction, which is protect the bluff and simply restore access where it was before you had to close it.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please do read the
for
materials
sure.
I provided you, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I know Steve's got my email address and my phone number, and please do understand that people in Wilmette are aware of this and really, really do care about it. They are watching, and they are hoping for a very good result from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the left side who would like to address? Anyone else who hasn't addressed us? Okay, thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Does Does anyone have any additional questions? I know I've got a few more questions, but I want to kind of open up the floor to everyone else.
I have kind of one question as to how far are you with the engineering? So if there was a design change at this point, whether that will push back or, depending on what the design change is.
Sort of the timetable you showed us at the end.
It seems like you were, from that timetable, that you may be done with the engineering.
Yeah, so currently we are essentially done. We have a document set that would be ready to go to the Park District for final review. But we consider it complete. We obviously want to make sure that the Park District signs off on that. So we present that as kind of a final owner review set. But we indicated here on the slide that we could start bidding, in this month. So.
What about if we just, I guess, kind of alluded to that, and instead of so the engineer would also have the path if it was just the stairs. So we're taking part out. If it was just I guess perhaps the overlook, because I think the overlook is necessary to put a Park District employee to monitor, and if it was the overlook and the stairs, would that impact the timeline at all? You're taking something out rather than.
That would not impact the schedule because those are actually added as alternates right now, and so they can just be removed if we didn't want to even include them as alternates. We would suggest including them because then you could see what the pricing is if you wanted to proceed with that.
Okay.
Just because they're in there.
It's just then you can make a decision.
Yeah, just because they're in as alternates doesn't mean you have to accept them.
Okay.
So it gives you the flexibility in the future.
Okay.
But to clarify, your question was, could you proceed with the stair but without the path? Is that what you would ask?
That's my consideration.
So because the path is not part of an alternate at this point.
Oh,
just to clarify.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So you're right.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's Mike's question, is whether we could proceed with the stair but not the path, is my question, whether that would cause problems.
Yeah, I think that's helpful because we are hearing both in residence this evening and other communications we've received, and maybe among all of us, some desire for optionality. So we know the revetment is necessary in protecting the bluff. I think protecting the beach and in the bluff are something we're all united on. The question of access is obviously a little bit up in the air, so to speak. But in general, we want that to be open, whether or not it's path A, B, C, et cetera. We've heard a lot of feedback. So it sounds like there is optionality in the bidding. And with respect to the project timeline, which is very helpful, if we were to not begin bidding until September with a notice to proceed November 1st, is it still possible to do some construction, or are we too close to the winter timeframe that, is unfavorable? I'm asking because I know we need to do some level of protection, and sooner is probably better than not.
So by the calendar, you could start construction. I would say that whoever was brought on board as the contractor would probably advise just holding off because once you mobilize and do maybe 2 weeks of work,
it's winter.
What value is that really bringing? So then you have to demobilize and to pay another mobilization in the springtime. So you're incurring some additional costs there for maybe 2-3 weeks of construction. That might be, certainly advantageous to kind of clear some things out or get some things prepped. But once you start disturbing some things, then you need to do some soil erosion control of your own. For maybe some vegetation that you did remove, even though we're trying to minimize that.
Helpful. Thank you.
I did want to address your specific comment.
And I will just before that, and then I would appreciate. Do the permits expire? Do we have an expiration date on the permits that you currently have?
So the permits are a 3-year window.
Okay.
And then the Corps of Engineers permit. It can be extended. You have to apply for an extension. And Those usually are permitted or extended. But obviously, it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry, you were responding.
I think your direct question, which I misunderstood, was can the stair be done without the path? And is that easily done in the engineering design as it currently stands?
Yes.
And that we would need some effort to make sure there's a way to get from the upland portion of the park to where the stairs would begin. What's that connection? That would need to be looked at. I don't have an exact timetable on how long that would take, but there would need to be a little bit of thought in how to make that connection. Do we just extend the stair system back to the upper portion, or is there some sort of transition there? What would that piece be? So we would need to look at that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Does the layering of the armor stone at the toe, at the closest to the water, does that cross-section, if you will, change without the path? Because I know you mentioned that was providing some extra stabilization by existing. So if, to Cecilia's point, if that were to not be there at all and you were to just provide this other access on the south, would you have to re-specify the types of stones and the layering and the depth, or would that base revetment still remain the same?
Yeah,
At the northernmost end.
Well, the whole
might
stretch.
I know, but especially where it connects, right?
Probably defer that to Mauricio if you could answer that one quickly.
It should stay pretty much the same. It can stay pretty much the same. I mean, the path is at the level of the revetment and the lower level of the revetment on the northern end. But the northern end also is a little bit more protected because there's some stones outside that are blocking the waves there. So yes, it can be removed. We'd have to look at it and see if anything behind the revetment needs to be added because the width of the whole structure is being reduced. And as per Bill's comment here about removing the path itself from the drawing set, there still need to be a tweaking of the drawings and the design itself, removing those layers, and there's some work done to the drawings, specifications, and other parts of the design that's been performed.
So Mauricio, while we have you up here, when I was asking you about the stabilization of the bluff, you said that if we did just the revetment at a certain point in time, and it could possibly be in the very near future, the wave action could go over the top, and the path helps then defeat any further breakdown of the existing bluff. If we take the path away, how are we then addressing the wave action going over the top of the revetment at certain periods of time?
In those extreme scenarios, we'd have to look at what would be the survivability of the vegetation that's there. It's very tricky because the revetment is in itself maintains a same elevation of 588.
Yeah.
The path itself varies.
Right.
So the path works at the northern end. More to the south, we still have a slope behind the revetment there. So we'd have to look at how that is done. But I think we can solve it fairly simply with some additional small stone behind the revetment itself to allow for a small basing for that wave. It'd be a little bit of a design change that needs to be done. But we're engineers. We are used to coming with solutions and addressing. We normally, we've looked at different options and we can handle that. It is a very extreme scenario, but it's an extreme scenario that we recently had,
right?
Which was 2020, large storms, high lake levels, damage everywhere. So we are wary about how frequent these occurrences are going to continue to happen. We do know that there is a climate change. We do know that the cycle that's been thought of every 10 years, or in 1986 we had high lake levels and then went down. We know high lake levels have occurred in the past, but we do know we have a lot of science background now telling us that there are significant climatological events that could alter this. The lack of freezing of the lake, much more precipitation that we are seeing everywhere. And so all of that makes us believe that there's a higher likelihood of having higher lake levels. So the revetment is very important. The path does provide some protection for very extreme events, but we can solve the, if we have to remove it and have a more natural solution to the back of the revetment. We are used to working with nature and working with all kinds of solutions, and we can come up with a solution that would be more nature-like to preserve that. For sure, listening to what the neighbors have said, we can accommodate for such desire if needed.
So in placing these additional stones, you're saying that maybe preservation of the existing vegetation is more or less intact relative
yes,
to...
Yes. If even in an extreme scenario like that, without the revetment, all of that nature it would get blown away.
Yeah.
It would get gone. I mean, we are working on different projects and protecting islands in the Great Lakes that have seen such erosion, trees falling down in various locations. Here in Illinois Beach State Park, that's a huge erosion problem that we're addressing too. So our understanding is that there was a desire for beach access, but we can accommodate for that if that's necessary.
And I think what Bill was saying is in this, if we alter this plan, where the timeline maybe gets kicked a month down the road, possibly, but maybe more in the redesign, and then the permitting, and we're probably starting next spring on this, to be realistic about it.
Yes, that is a concern.
Correct. That would probably put you more in this scenario where we look to bid maybe in the winter and then start construction optimally in the springtime. Again, it could be deferred later if that worked better for park operations.
Can I ask a clarification question on the design concept with the shorter path? Could you clarify how that footprint differs from the existing path that's been referred to, the
Concept
gravel?
B.
Oh, B, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pull up concept B again.
Certainly. So let me scroll back. And I think the visual will help us work through that or question. This is the one you're referring to, I believe, Commissioner Anderson. So the existing pathway or the, I should say,
pre-high water pathway.
Sorry?
Right. The pre-high water pathway, the prior access. Right.
Yeah, in this scenario, we've tried to follow that existing pathway with our new pathway as much as possible. For a couple reasons. Obviously, it's a worn path already, but it minimizes the development footprint or kind of the limits of disturbance that we have to do. And certainly there would be some grading that needs to be done in that area and some stabilization since it's experienced a great deal of erosion, but it's really trying to keep it within that existing alignment just to minimize the impact as much as possible.
So that grading looks pretty similar to what the grading would have to be for Concept C, no? With the path?
At this scale, it might look that way, but you can see we're noticeably different along this edge here.
Yeah.
Where these trees that we've shown on the most current scheme as being impacted would be able to remain. We're confident in that, just being able to keep this slope in here.
But to the south, to the bottom there, isn't that larger or is that the same? Because you come down, don't you come down at?
Yeah, I can flip to the next one. That is significantly larger just because of the pathway. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not what I wanted to do. Yes, that is noticeably larger or more impact to the south, just because the alignment that we'd be taking there. I mentioned that it's meant to follow that existing pathway as much as possible to minimize that, but to cut that in and get down to the grade at the beach to provide that access through the revetment on the south here means that there is some disturbance on that south edge. Yep.
Could you clarify the last point on the note for both B and C? So it says balanced cut/fill, so no imported material for B, but for C it says imported fill required to achieve stable slopes. Could you talk to us a little bit about what that means?
Sure thing.
Comparing and contrasting.
Yeah, so for B, we'll start here. A key strategy that we try to do on any project, whether it's a bluff stabilization project or not, is to minimize the amount of material that's leaving the site or that's being hauled in. Two reasons really. Obviously minimize cost and the handling of all that material, but also it's just more sustainable to work with what you have, and as long as it's suitable material, of course. So just trying to minimize and that earth moving and getting the material to balance on site really is a key strategy that we have for all of our projects. So that is achieved with this concept B. While we are doing a lot of movement of the earth, it's done with what's already existing on site. It's just kind of reshaping it, moving it around. We don't think there's any haul off of material or import, or not significant, maybe a truckload here or there, but not, tens and 20s truckloads, things of that nature. That changes with option C. We would need to bring in some material to achieve those, just the earthwork that's necessary here for this plan.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, so there was a question posed about the cost of digging out the bluff. The statement was that they believe that the majority of the cost of the project is the digging out of the bluff. Is that accurate, or is that?
I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, and I wish Mark was here to answer that one.
Okay.
I do feel, and Mauricio, correct me if I'm wrong, because I
think the majority is in the revetment itself, right?
I believe it's in the armor stone.
Yeah.
The armor stone is of the revetment is the big ticket item here.
Right. You got to barge that down, and yep.
Access challenges really contribute to the revetment costs, but yeah, I would say the vast majority. Again, I don't know what percentage, but the majority of the cost is in the revetment itself.
All right, and then another question was about some primary succession. Are you familiar with that, primary succession?
I know that was a term brought up by a resident. To be honest, I'm not familiar with that, and I need to do a little homework on that. And I'm glad that was brought to our attention.
And the other one was bluff remains stable without path, but we talked about that already. All right, so that was out of what I got. That was the three questions that I had from residents.
Okay. Other questions?
One other thing I picked up from the comments, and just as I'm thinking through, with concept B, if you could flip back one, please. I believe I read somewhere else in your presentation that one of the potential drawbacks here, it's also pretty close, the proximity to the private property on the south. And so recognizing that this plan was creating a full ramp, one of the things suggested in the comment was, could there be a side-by-side perhaps the vehicular path for better, if that's necessary for emergency vehicles for maintenance, would needed to be there and it was significantly steep and there was a stair alongside of it, would that be something that might cut more directly back in line with the A2 that showed the stairwell where it just went straight to the beach rather than bringing folks out closer to the private property and being more center? I'm assuming that was the best ramp access you could get in that other concept, but sort of a hybrid of those.
Yeah, hybrid of A2 and B, looking at that.
You might not have the answer on the spot, but that might be a question to consider, is what to come straight in east-west as was suggested as it exists today. What does that grade have to be, and could that still exist safely for some purposes with a stairwell beside it, or even a portion of hybrids, some slope, some stair as necessary?
Yeah, I think that might go back to what Commissioner Duffy was asking about, what's the existing grade, and could we basically reinforce that to be stable, address our erosion problems, and just keep it kind of the way it is today. I think we heard some of that from the community members as well. Again, I need to go back and look at what that existing slope is. I think we noted here on this one, it's probably in that 12.5 range, that ballpark, I would imagine.
Mauricio's standing up. Look out.
He's behind you.
He's lurking.
I just wanted to add a little bit that, so the existing access that was there before 2020, before 2019, is no longer there. Right. I mean, the slope that we have now there, that we have in our contours to play with, is this steep bank that goes down.
Yep.
We can't recreate the slope that was there in 2017 without hauling a large amount of sand to make the beach wider, because the waves have cut out all of that sand out, and we've got a steep drop.
Yeah, and I guess I have another question too, is that, it's our recreating, you have to protect that yes. as well. So, because previously it was washed away, so that you...
If we just go and place sand there and another storm comes, then it's going to get washed away again.
Yeah. I was going to say, so any access, so even putting, for B, having that longer accents, I think was it necessary because of you have to provide
It's because now we have a steeper drop at that location, and so we have to do it, so to provide 12.5%, we have to go farther to the south, and then we have to provide the protection for the access.
So one of the questions, and I'm sorry that I'm bringing this back up, it was about the sand. A statement was made that the sand's going to run over the top of the revetment and essentially cover up the path as it was proposed.
So when waves come, they go and they push the sand, and they push sand out. That the sand is going to come back and fill all of this area back again. It could possibly happen, but it would take a long time. 5-10 years, and we need a long time of sustained lower than average lake levels for that to happen. Is that going to happen in the next 10 years? No one knows. Likelihood that happens is not very likely, but it could happen. But we don't know if in the next 10 years we're going to get lower than average lake levels. We just came from a period from 2002 to 2012 that we had record low water levels. And we had a long period of record low water levels, dredging projects, lots of problems, very wide beaches. And then 2013 till now, the rate of increase of the lakes was very fast, and they haven't gone down, and slightly 2 feet in the average, but still there's cycles, and then there's climatological events. So we don't know. We know that as lake levels are right now, and the beach that is there, the bluff is at risk of further erosion from any storm.
Yep.
All right, I had one or two other questions on page 23 in our packet and then your new page 23. So maybe 23 in our packet went to 24, I'm not sure. If you'd start with that one, which shows the picture of the existing greenery on the bluff. Keep going.
One more.
This
Yeah,
one,
this
and then
one.
we're going to go back to the other one. So the picture on our left that shows some of the greenery, I've heard comments that most of this is invasive, and then I've heard comments that maybe it's not. What do we know? Has anybody done an assessment of what's there? Can we say that it's 20% invasive or 90% invasive? Do we know that? Have we done that assessment, or do we still need to do that assessment?
We can't speak on percentages. We've observed, some invasives in honeysuckle, and unfortunately, I'm not the one that's really knowledgeable about that.
Sure.
But no, there hasn't been a full inventory or like a vegetative management.
So we know that there's some invasive species, but we don't know how much of it.
Correct.
And so when somebody says that there's some non-invasive species, that could very well be true too.
Certainly.
Okay.
Sure.
And then go to the other page for a second for me. So assuming that some of that greenery may have value, I just want to make sure I understand this diagram. What we just saw in the prior picture, obviously there are trees at the top of the bluff, and we understand that we're going to be saving virtually all of them, except for perhaps something at the very south end, and then possibly something, depending upon where the path goes, that we may still be able to make some adjustments. But the rest that's sort of going more down the bluff, under the current plan with this long path, does most of that, whether it's invasive or native, does most of that go away? And then if it does, how long does it take for it to grow back?
So
is the green showing what's going to go away?
Yeah, the green hatch does show what would be removed.
So that's most of what we saw in that prior picture.
A good portion of it, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I want to clarify two things, and then let me answer your second question there. The top of the bluff, as I understand it, really coincides with this fence line.
Yes.
So all of the trees, the land side of that or upland side of that fence line are certainly going to remain. And then the vast majority of the trees on the bluff itself will also remain. We just feel that these two trees on the north will certainly be impacted and need to be removed. Of course, this is the one that's fallen already. And then these two, again, are likely, or we need to do some additional provisions to save these. So the vast majority of these trees, even on the bluff, are to remain as well in place. But to your specific question, we talked about the green hatched area. Yes, those areas would be removed of the vegetation, the lower kind of understory or the brush that's at that level on the slope. But you asked about how fast would that come back, or
right.
Our plant mix that we proposed is a really robust, fast-acting seed mix, and I'm going to get this term wrong, but it's an herbaceous. I forget the name of the term. It's in some notes here, but it's an herbaceous grass-like plant material that really takes quickly. So it'll root in and be very hardy and robust in that 6 to 12 month period, of full growing season.
So it will, and that will then help stabilize the bluff with its root system, but it won't be as dense as what is there now.
It would be, I would say it would be just as dense.
Okay.
It's
So
just
we
going to
pull back
look.
that other picture again?
Yep.
But it'll be lower.
It's just going to have a different character to it. Yeah. It's going to be more.
It's more of a grassy.
It's going to be really hardy and dense, almost like create a mat on the surface
think Elmwood
for
dunes.
stabilization.
Yeah.
Think
Yeah,
Elmwood
so-
dunes,
right,
right.
Patrick.
So this is,
Yeah,
so we some people that I got involved with, we did Elmwood Dunes this park. I don't know how many people have visited Elmwood Dunes, but thank you for visiting. Elmwood Dunes is a great place. Amy, how many years ago did we start that project?
2010.
So in 2010, we did the plantings, right?
Oh, no, plantings was 2014.
Okay, so 2010 was we started trying to bring some awareness to it. It took a year plus, whatever. Then in about 2012 or 13, the village came through it and just stripped everything out of there. Just clear cut everything except the trees that are out on the dunes. There's, I think, 5 or 6 trees. They left those trees. Everything in Elmwood Dunes was replanted. Everything. So here we are 7 years later, 8 years later, and everybody loves Elmwood Dunes. And everybody's loved Elmwood Dunes for the past 4 or 5 years. So whatever they're going to replant in 4 or 5 years is going to be very dense and very lush, and maybe even a little bit before that, depending upon how quickly things take. So if you can imagine anything that has to get replanted after the revetment's done, or wherever they have to replant things from grading, it'll be like what Elmwood Dunes is in a few years. If that can give you any kind of a picture of what's happening or will happen at this site.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anything from anybody else? All right.
Can I ask a process question?
That's where we're going to go, so fire away.
I'll let you go ahead then. I just wasn't sure. Wanted to make sure we were getting to that. Sorry.
So where we are at this point is there's a plan that's been approved by the board, and we have given them direction to go out to bid. That would be the next step in this process. Do we as a group want to change that at this point? We need to talk about if we want it. Otherwise, this is moving forward. The next step will be a bid will be presented to us, which reflects concept C, and then we will vote either to approve that and begin the project or not. That's where the process is going from here, unless we want to change it tonight.
Well, I think we haven't voted yet as a board on C.
So this sort of gets back to our West Park discussion as well. It's a very similar process to that in each case, the committee had approved the plan, and then it came back to the board and there was discussion by the board. I think in the case of West Park, the board did actually approve a plan. I don't recall whether we approved the plan or not, but we certainly gave the staff the green light to continue down this road. So the only time that we're required to make a vote is when we're expending funds, when the bid would come back, when everything's ready to go, and then it's yay or nay. So that's the way that we're headed at this point, unless we decide to change that here tonight.
Yeah, I think a clarifying point, we as a group can decide, do we want to bid C or B or A?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we're prepared to go to bid with C. They would have to do additional work for us to go to bid with anything else. There's work that's been done to take us down the path with C that would need to be done for us to consider A or B or anything else.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Great.
Take it away, President.
All right, so I'm opening the floor. Do people want to continue down this path where we're going to now go to bid with C, or do we want to change the process? Do we want to consider other alternatives? Do we want to slow down the process? I have some very strong feelings about that, but I want to open the floor to the group.
I have I have a question about, that may impact the decision here, and that is about if we were to make a decision today to go forward with the Plan C, and then you could go and we could have bids by the next meeting, and then we could start any process, right, of work at the site. What is the first thing that happens down there? What is going to happen before this winter? So would there be any armor stone delivered before the winter storms are hitting? Is there? So I guess I'm looking for, is there an advantage to try and move forward now over moving forward in the spring?
Or another way of asking that question perhaps, is there some work that could be done irrespective of A, B, or C? Or do we need to know which way we're going before we start any work? Is that sort of what you're getting at?
That's a better way to phrase what I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah, I think, according to your question, Commissioner Murdoch, we really need to understand what the design is. The contractor obviously needs to understand that for their scope of work and also their sequencing of the improvements.
Okay.
So, yeah, if
we're not certain we're moving forward with C, we should take a step back at this point. Is that?
And you're looking more at a start in the springtime of next year.
If we move forward with C tonight and we go to bid, what is the first thing that can happen? Are we talking about getting armor stone down there before? I mean, as some of the first steps?
Yeah, so the very first step would be more soil erosion control measures.
Okay.
To just, put those in place. But, maybe Mauricio, if he wants to chime in, but
he doesn't want to. He
hasn't gotten up yet this time.
I would believe you would start with kind of mass earthwork and really set the grades, kind of do some excavation where that revetment's going to go. Obviously, you need to maybe stabilize some areas upland of where that revetment is. But yeah, get that excavation started, do the prep work for setting that armor stone. And the idea would be to really set that armor stone still this fall. It might be very late in the fall, but get that in place so the toe is protected before winter storms roll in.
I guess that leads to my question is how much danger to the bluff for this? I mean, I guess you probably don't really know, but what is, what's
Mauricio still wants to get
ready to go. Come on.
If it's delayed, how much damage to the bluff can happen this winter?
If the documents are published and then you go to tender, so you probably award so you have to publish that, you have to give the contractors time for pricing, then you have to review their offers, and then it has to be awarded, then the contract needs to be signed. And so each one of those steps, I'm counting a month. So we are already in August, September, October, November. Best case scenario, contractor starts mobilization in November, in my opinion. And it could be a little bit earlier, a little bit farther, but time-wise, something around that. What the contractor can do in November there, protection-wise, best case scenario is stockpile armor stone on the beach to protect the bluff. So it just stockpile, just not really start the excavation and placing. The contractor will probably have some delays due to bad weather and the difficulty working in the winter, and so that would be the scenario to moving forward, most likely, realistically. What else can be done? We've done temporary revetment protections somewhere else, but it does. We have to do the drawings of the temporary protection. It has to be published, it has to be awarded, so it'd be a similar time frame in our experience, right, Bill? Somewhere around that. So that's time frame. What I believe it's somewhere where we're at the time of the year we are.
But part of your question was about the risk, is that right? I assume the risk is somewhat unknown because we don't know how bad the storms are going to be.
It is unknown.
But the water level's lower than
the water levels. The U.S. Army Corps forecast takes the water level slightly lower than 579. So they're not, the monthly means are not going to go high up again to 582 in the next 3 months. So our forecast for the next 3 months are fairly accurate from the Army Corps. So we know that at least in the next 3 months and during the winter, we don't expect the lake levels to rise. So
So we could have a bad storm, we could
We
have some
could have a
erosion, but
bad-
the risks are not as great as it has been the last couple of years when the water levels
If we
were
have a
higher.
10-year storm, is a 10-year return, so the 11th of January storm was somewhere between a 10-year return period storm, but the problem was that we had high lake levels. If we have the same storm that we had before, the damage would probably be less. There's more beach erosion already that allows the waves to reach farther in, but the lake levels would be 2 feet lower. So larger waves will break offshore, and so the expected damage would be less. Having that said, there's always a chance that we get a 100-year or a Hurricane Sandy storm, in which case every part of the lake is going to be damaged, and that has occurred. A Hurricane Sandy happened in 2012, and we had low lake levels, fortunately, especially in Lake Erie. If not, the damage would have been worse. But the risk is lower than it was 2 years before.
All right. So that, in a way, that helps with the decision a little bit, right? I mean, even if we were to say, hey, C, because we can start, stabilization or protection, for sure, but we're not going to be able to if we say C tonight and go out to bid and everything. I mean, that's the message that I just received.
We might be able to put some armor stone down, which might offer some protection, but it's not going to be really the substance of the project at this point. Right. Fair enough. That's what I heard too.
Yeah. All right. So we can have, I mean, let's, honestly, I just want to see the revetment get in there. How we access isn't as important to me personally, but I understand the feelings of the neighbors. They want to have it the way it was. We've been told we can't have it the way it was, but we can maybe get it close to the way it was with some minor improvements. And the expectation should be, regardless of the work that is done, the feeling of the beaches or the park at the bluff level down is going to change. It's going to change. The park up top, at the top of the bluff, the trees, that's not going to be as affected. As you move down the bluff, it was explained to us that there shouldn't be too much change. And then as we get into the area where there's going to be work with just the revetment and however we access, it's going to feel different. I like the idea of the improvement, in my mind, of the natural, the native plantings around that area. I think it's going to be, I think people may be a little bit afraid of change, but I think it's going to be a nice change to the park, as evidenced by, what was achieved at Elmwood. So I think the top areas, you're not going to see much of a difference except how you go through the trees down. I think it's going to be improved, the path will be improved. So I'm not strong in either way. I'd just like to see the project move forward personally. But if there is this strong push for as straight an access down as we can get, that's fine by me.
Lindsay, I think I'll just sort of go around the room.
We switch seats over there now. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome for getting it started, Mike.
Yes.
Well,
thank you, Patrick.
And Patrick, you mentioned Elmwood. There's been mention of experts, and I don't know where that fits into this process, but really would appreciate, hearing from many of those experts if it allows for that, so we can make sure that we're, getting it right on the plant side. But, we haven't talked about, we have so many residents, I think, that I'm hearing from who are so excited about this beach being open and available, and that they just want to open as soon as possible and they want to be able to access it. So I hear that too. I was part of the discussions on the Lakeview Committee where we considered the proposal where it currently stands. And I believe we absolutely have to preserve and preserve the character of our parks. And as soon as we start developing and paving, we can never get that back. I absolutely recognize that. But at the same time, we had extensive conversations around stabilization and protection and safety and access. And I think my intent, and I think we shared the same intent of this path without having to take down trees, was still going to be able to preserve the character of the park. However, I have also heard feedback from residents and received additional information from our consultants, and I understand that it does seem that the character of the park would be changed more, I think, than we had thought, or as we had discussed. So based on the feedback and additional information, I would be open to changing the plan to the shorter path.
Okay, thank you. Allie?
Yes, I've been listening a lot as I think this is the first time I've spoken all night. But thank you for asking many of the questions that I would have gotten to. Something that I went back to and underlined here, primary goal, prevent land loss and catastrophic failure of Bluff and Park. So for me, that is my primary goal here too. And I remember a couple of years ago running and just having enjoyed Langdon the first summer we moved here in 2017, just saying, gosh, when can we open this again? I want to get back. I want to be able to enjoy it with my kids again. So the secondary goal of preventing damage to and restoring public access, I think, is very important, but needs and wants are different things. The need here is to prevent the land loss. And I just want to be very clear that, as Patrick stated, to prevent land loss and the failure of the bluff, we have to cut into the bluff and get that revetment work done, and therefore change is going to happen. It's going to look different, and I know that is going to be challenging for all of us as we want it to go back to what it was. It won't be what it was. It will be different, and so with that in mind, I'm trying to envision that secondary goal, then, okay, how do we prevent the stormwater and how do we get the public access? And I think there's more play with that part of it, and that's the part that I think should be open to more discussion. So therefore, I think I would like to pull back, not move forward with Plan C, but discuss other options for the public access that strikes a better balance between the character of the park as it was and what we envision it for the future.
Thank you. Julia?
Yeah, I think that's very well said. Having been part of the Lakefront Committee and even part of the consideration of stormwater damage for some time as one of the, senior members of the board at the moment, I would note that we need to preserve and find a way to stabilize. The second piece is the access, and it's always been important to me to have it open. How we make it open is secondary. And so all the things that we've considered this evening, the many questions that we've asked, not only Bill and Maurizio this evening, but Mark Wagstaff over the last 18 months, I'm very confident in the engineer's ability to advise us on the protection. I think we have a very good option in B, which allows us to create access, but not give up stormwater controls. And so that is where I'm leading right now, because having the balance of stabilization and access is achieved with concept B.
Cecilia?
Yes, I mentioned this before, and I do want to start out. I mean, I'm also. I recall when we the board first spoke with Smith's group, and we about the lakefront and question about hiring consultants, and we were so impressed by the presentation, and I have continued to be impressed by the and I think said before, the professionalism and the expertise that you have exhibited over the past few years, and I am so grateful that we have we decided to hire you as consultants, because I think the value you have provided to us has just been immense, and again, I'm so thankful for what you've done. I have said before, when we first had these concepts, kind of C was my last choice, and we determined, we settled on that, and I've said very many times, because of the protection on it. But I think that there has been enough concerns expressed by neighbors that I do not feel that this is the only option, and I think, we've also said that access is important for the beach because it's going to happen whether we want it or not. And so let's control the access. Unfortunately, I guess I do, from left stand here, I think we, like Allison, I do think we need to kind of slow it down a little bit. I am still, either the concept B or stairs to me seem to be the, what will be the way that we will eventually decide to proceed. I was kind of hoping, and I think, perhaps, as I said, option C, but without the path, but just the stairs might be an option, but I'm not, I don't know. And that's one thing to talk about, because I do think that for all that we need we do need some sort of platform or structure or some at the top to provide a area where staff can monitor the beach, can determine who is checking passes, making sure that everyone who's using the beach has a beach pass. So I do think it would be, some of the comments on how people like to go down and watch the sunrise, and I think having that, will be really will enhance enhance it for everyone. I have to agree with everyone. This is not going to be the same beach. I think it can be better, but hearing enough that I think that we need to reassess the access portion to it.
Sounds good. Yep, I agree with everything that's been said, and I felt coming in that even had we approved any plan tonight, the timeline felt aggressive in the labor market that we know that we're in, and with the delays we've seen around our district and many other projects. So I truly don't feel as terribly about taking the pause to reset and refine these drawings, because I don't see it as much of a delay as it might look if we just looked at the paper of these two options, because given the risk with that timeline being as aggressive as it was anyway, let's make sure we're comfortable with the new design. I, again, as everyone else has said, am so thankful for your expertise, appreciate all of the effort and thought and patience you've had with us, and it's done nothing but instill more confidence in my mind with the Smith Group, and that I'm thankful you were here tonight to hear all of our comments that came from the public as well, because I think you have a good perspective of where we're heading. So thank you.
And I would echo the comments I've heard as well. I think, Ally, you had noted that the number one priority is to preserve and protect the bluff. We've all agreed to that from day one. There's never been any question about that. And quite frankly, it was more urgent when we started that process than it is today. Not that it's not urgent and not that we couldn't see additional erosion, but the situation has improved relative to when we started the process. The secondary concern is access. And, we absolutely want to have access to this beach sooner than later. I mean, one of the nicest things in town is to be able to start down at the South Overlook and walk all the way up to Langdon or vice versa. And we really haven't had that. So I think we're all anxious to restore that access. But we don't want to hurry the process such that we end up doing something that changes the character of this space more than it needs to. I think we've all recognized that there are going to be some changes as we do this work, as we protect the bluff, but we want to be sensitive to what this park always has been. It's an incredibly unique space. It's really not like anything else, and we want to take as light of a touch as possible, and I think that's what I'm hearing from everybody here today, and I certainly agree with that. For my part, looking back at how we came to this point, I think I fixated on the number of trees that were being removed. And at one point we heard that there were only 2 trees being removed, which I sort of then jumped to the conclusion that meant this was sort of going to be a light touch. But and I wasn't able to get down there until more recently and really look at the plans with the beach. And so I was probably a little slow to the game to realize how much of a change I think option C would have really felt like. I don't think I fully appreciated that until more recently. So I'm certainly hoping that we're going to do something more like option B. If it's possible, I would like to see some sort of a path rather than a stair. Again, a stair I think is going to feel like a pretty big change compared to what was been there before. Obviously, we want something that's going to be long-term and stable. We want to, do this, solve a problem, do it right, and hopefully be able to forget about it for a generation. And that's my hope that we'll be able to get here as well. But I think given the timetable, given the feedback we've seen, it does make sense to slow this process down a little bit. And again, I think we learned from West Park that sometimes with our processes, things just kind of keep going unless we sort of stand up and stop. And then sometimes we end up in a place where we really didn't intend to be. So I think this is a good example of us taking the experiences we've had earlier and kind of adjusting the process a little bit. And I think we'll end up with a better outcome in the end, which I hope will be something as close to what was there before, recognizing there are going to have to be some changes for us to be able to stabilize this bluff and protect it for the next generation. So it sounds like there's consensus. Do you need any other direction from us at this point?
So are we, at this point, we're giving Smith Group direction
to not go out and bid option C.
Understand that, but their direction from this meeting is come back to us with different plans to access the beach, because we know
some additional information about access so we can keep this process going forward.
Right, but correct. Are we saying, hey, come back to us with some different concepts like, okay, path with stairs over, path only, least impactful? I mean, I think we need to have some direction so that they can come back to us in a month or so so that we can continue to move the process forward. Give us some options
That's
to work
a great point. It sounds to me what I've heard from the discussion tonight is we want something that looks somewhat like option B, either as a path or as a stair, although we've also heard if there's a way that we can sort of keep that somewhat away from the neighboring properties, that would be helpful too. So I think that's the direction we're giving to Smith Group.
Can I add one more?
Please.
And if I'm on my own on this, but if it's stairs, those are less accessible for strollers and wagons and families. My experience at other beaches, there are many of these in Michigan, is that before you get to the stairs, there's somewhere to, drop a stroller or a wagon, just a small little area. So if, and just having been there today, I know it's, a little less steep if we had like a little bit of a path. And then if it turned to stairs, if we could just have, if it's an option, a really small area, I'm not talking about a big overlook or a bigger footprint, but talking about this as a goal of keeping the footprint small, but still having that access. If it were, if we could consider all options that keep that footprint small, but at least for dropping those wagons and strollers, even if it's partway down, you can't get all the way down to the beach, but at least partway, that goes a long way. I don't know if I'm on my...
I am absolutely with you.
Well, I'm with you too, because I think one of the nice things about in Concept C is that bump out where we could have a staff member before people get all the way down to the beach, so that you can check passes, so that you can have, somebody for emergencies run up the road. I don't know, but there's going to be a staff member in that bump out area to control access to the beach. So I'm 100% with you on some sort of a landing before the stairs, or there's got to be some sort of a bump out place where we can have that control for access.
Well, Concept B
And Concept B
includes- has that.
Has a platform where we could have staff or a stroller parking.
Perhaps instead of extending down, perhaps that's
A1,
a stair.
or I'm sorry, A2 even indicated stairs plus platforms a few places. So again, I'm confident that they've heard.
they'll come up with a good
the
recommendation.
Great.
Yeah.
But you didn't like that one, did you, Bill?
There was a risk of, there was a
don't have any
little bit
opinions.
more,
But you do.
susceptible over there.
Well, yeah, this one was the risk of some erosion because the revetment doesn't close up there. Yeah. And it kicks people out mostly at that south end, right, closest to. I'm sorry.
And that still puts concrete on the sand almost to one of the other.
Well,
things we
there'd be no.
discussed earlier. If that, depending on what that path is.
Well, yeah.
But that's what's shown in this picture. So I'm going to punt it back to Smith, but I think there's some sort of a cross between that A2 and B2.
So from a timing standpoint, we would probably discuss this not in a board meeting, it would be at a committee of the whole meeting. So it would either be 2 weeks or 6 weeks out, and we'll let you work with staff to see when you can bring some additional information back to us so we can continue the conversation. Do you feel like you have the direction you need from us at this point?
Yeah, it'd be great.
And
Good
then
feedback.
certainly working with staff,
Yep.
Moving forward?
Yes.
Great, Wes. And again, as I think you've heard from everyone here, we're so grateful for your work with us, and we're incredibly confident in your expertise, and we appreciate you being patient with us because we're certainly taking a little bit more time than we all had expected with this process. So thank you so much.
We appreciate those remarks, and we obviously want to do what's in your best interest, and obviously a reflection on the community as well. So,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I'm fortunate that college kids tend to stay up very late. I am going to disappear and pass the gavel to Kara now, and thank you, everyone.
Steve, we are at the Executive Director's report.
Sure. And feel free to go if you are done. All right. The first part, and Bill, you guys, thank you. We'll talk tomorrow. Gilson Comprehensive Survey was emailed out, and then the report I mentioned that about 50% of the email recipients opened the email, about 960 clicked on the link, and as of Friday mid-afternoon, we had received 839 responses. I have not asked for an updated number, but I believe it's reasonable to assume that that number has increased over the weekend. And I say here in the report that we're keeping the survey open at least for a week, but we have on our website, we're keeping the survey open through August 26th. So the survey will be open until August 26th. Comprehensive and strategic plan, we're looking to get going on that later this month. I have some marching orders from our consulting team to put a couple things in place before we do that, but we're hoping to start off with some initial efforts again in that August 26th timeframe. Around, I think the 23rd is what they're hoping for at this point. And then looking forward on what you have on the agenda for the rest of tonight's meeting. 2 committee of the whole meetings ago, the board reviewed the board organization and operations manual, and it's before the board for its approval here tonight. Also, at the last committee of the whole meeting, we reviewed the West Park lease with ComEd for the land just adjacent to West Park on the west side of West Park Drive. Couple typos were pointed out in that meeting. Those typos have not been updated by ComEd at this point. So if the board wants to defer it until they see those typos, that's fine. Or if they want to approve it pending those typos are done, you can authorize me to sign the lease when altered by ComEd. And then lastly, typical business surplus ordinance outlining a request for authorization to dispose of equipment from the Parks and Planning Department. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Steve?
I do have one question, I'm sorry, but there was a question at the meeting when reviewing the ComEd lease about the taxes. The real estate taxes are mentioned in there, that it's a net lease, but we thought that there were no taxes being a utility company. Did you confirm that?
Correct. Yeah, there's no taxes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
If there's no further questions, then the next item on our unfinished business is consideration of the revised board's organization and operations manual.
So you have a red line version of that in your packet.
Correct.
I think it incorporates all the changes that were discussed at the committee of the whole meeting.
It's really blue lined.
They're blue lined, correct.
They're blue lined.
I'm sorry.
Same effect is achieved. So there is an action that we can move to approve this. It was actually assigned to me by Mike before he left, but I will.
You can make the motion.
If I don't agree with the motion, Steve, what would the process be? Shall I start the discussion now or make the motion first?
It's appropriate from a kind of process point of view to make the motion, do the second, then have the discussion, and then if that amends the motion, that.
All right. I'll move to approve the amended organization and operation of the Board of Park Commissioners manual.
I'll second.
Is there discussion?
Well, you have some issues.
Sounds like there will be.
Yes.
So, acknowledging that this was discussed at the first committee of the whole meeting of this new board year, of which I was absent. I did not have an opportunity to speak with the rest of you until afterwards. I on the whole, am comfortable with the edits as suggested, with the exception of the edit referring to, I'm sorry, let me find it, section
2.09.
2.09, thank you. For all regular and special board meetings, as well as the committee of the whole, an agenda item may be added by the chair of the meeting or at the request of 2 or more commissioners. The proposal was to strike 2 or more, such that any one commissioner could add an item to the agenda. I understand the sentiment with which where that conversation began. However, as a matter of procedure and effective board behavior, I feel strongly that that's not in our best interest and not a practice that we would want to put into permanent record requiring such an amendment to undo in the future. So that's why I wanted to pause and bring that up for conversation, since I haven't had a chance to publicly bring that up since this had been put into consideration.
So Commissioner, your recommendation is to remove that 2 or more strike, so it returns to
2 or more.
Or at the request of 2 or more commissioners.
I think she wants to keep the 2 or more.
Keep the 2 or more.
Right.
Yeah, so it remains 2 or more commissioners must be required to add an agenda item. I think that is reasonable. I think that if any one commissioner has an idea and wants to get another commissioner on board, 2 seems like a reasonable level. I would be interested to know what other boards do in our community. The village, the school board, are we being consistent at 2 or more, or are there other, guidelines we should be aware of?
Yeah, and I asked that question. I was told that the village board requires 3 board members to put an item on their agenda. So I don't know the entirety of the rest of our community, but knowing that, again, confirms, general board behavior. With a board of 7, if any one person wanted to add 25 items to the agenda, that would be the can of worms we would be creating by leaving that here. And I would hope with 7 commissioners that if at least one other person would be willing to discuss the topic with you, that would be a healthy check and balance, in my professional opinion.
I'm the one who argued for just anyone, any commissioner adding to the agenda, because I think that's what we've been doing up to now. And I guess it does really kind of turn on the trust of your fellow commissioners. At least everyone here, I trust, and I'm trusting that they will not put, will not request frivolous agenda items. I suppose that could possibly change. But I think in what we've been doing sort of in practice these last few months is that that there have been items added to the agenda by one commissioner, and it's actually produced pretty good agendas. So I don't see a problem with having just any commissioner adding something.
I agree that it sort of worked in practice, but I do think my opinion on a document like this is that we should amend it as infrequently as possible, and that we should have a document in place that can last a long time. And I know we have a couple of other changes that I do believe are absolutely essential, but I don't think this change is essential, and I do anticipate that there could be a different board or board member where this additional freedom could be problematic. And so I would, if appropriate, make another motion or amend the existing motion if procedurally able to approve all of the changes with the exception of the one that we're discussing.
Any other discussion?
When Cecilia brought this up, I was in support of adding it as it seemed inclusive and sort of in the spirit of our board, as you mentioned. I also think at that time, I forget if it was President Murdoch mentioned that we sort of do that already, and couldn't you have one more? I do feel that we are a collaborative board, that we could easily find a second. I'm curious, after having heard, I don't think a request would be denied if an agenda item was asked to be put on. So for the protection of future boards, I therefore err on the side of caution that it could protect rather than harm.
I will say, I mean, your guys' arguments are all persuasive. I mean, I know I'm the one who wanted just one commissioner, but I do have to agree that, I guess we have to kind of think of a worst case scenario since those have happened. So I guess I'm going to say, okay, I'm okay with getting the two or more. Just as you point out, we tend to be collaborative, and I don't think it would be too much of an issue. Okay, but although I am just saying again, I think in practice we have been doing, one person has been putting agenda items on there. So, but you guys are. I have to say that that is a persuasive argument for me. So I am happy to keep it at two or more. Yeah.
Therefore, I second Lindsay's motion. Is that what needs to occur?
I think procedurally, it's probably best that the person who made the motion, in conjunction with the person who seconded the motion, revise the motion. Because I think otherwise, then we'd have to take the motions as separate motions in the order one would have to fail in order for the next one to succeed. But if the person who made the motion and the person who seconded it collaborate on revising it, then we're fine.
I withdraw the first motion, and I will now move to approve the amended. How would I do that?
I'd say as amended per discussion.
Okay, move to approve the organization and operation of the Board of Park Commissioners Manual as amended per the Board of Commissioners discussion.
I second.
Exception of 2.09.
Well, I'm just saying as amended. So,
Okay, and for the record, the discussion was on section 2.09 for Catherine's notes.
Not to make a change.
Okay.
Correct. Shall we take a vote?
Ready? All right. Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And I just want to point out that this is the first time I've ever seen that we're on page 12 of 11.
I don't know why it's like that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that discussion.
And then I think I'm
Moving on to new business.
Yes.
8.1.
Yes, and I think that's me again. I move to approve the recreation lease for common property adjacent to West Park.
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have discussion on that?
My only question about it was about the taxes. Steve answered that.
Fair enough.
And I'm fine approving this subject to the typographical errors being changed and allowing Steve to sign once he confirms that they were changed as we requested.
Correct. Shall we take a vote?
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Motion passes.
That brings us to 8.2, the surplus property. Can we have a motion for that?
I move to approve ordinance 2022-0-8, an ordinance authorizing the disposal of certain surplus property owned by the Wilmette Park District as recommended by the Parks and Planning Department.
I'll second. Oh,
Any discussion?
You're seconding them all.
Julia got me on one.
No discussion?
I support the
Lovely
recommendation.
pictures, Christy. Thank you for the photos.
What's the Billy Goat vacuum?
There's always a picture.
Oh, I guess.
All right, let's vote. Steve?
Commissioner Duffy?
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
Our final motion of the evening?
Actually, before we adjourn, only because it was just so lovely, we had the privilege of gathering at Maple Park this afternoon. Did I miss that? Did someone mention it? Okay. It was a beautiful, cool evening, and thank you, Steve, and your team. You just planned a really wonderful event. The park was full of families and children, and the neighborhoods got together, and we were able to have a ribbon cutting that basically 20 kids assisted us with, and it was just so much fun. It's an amazing park, my kids' new favorite park. It's really exciting, and just wanted to share that positive before we left. So thank you so much for coordinating that.
You know, and
You're here.
Yes, and yeah, no, it really was lovely. I just make a comment because there's a photo of the water fountain having been being installed on WJHS, outside wall of WJHS. This is just an aside. Kenilworth has removed their water fountains from their playfields as well. So we're not, I know there, but that's that.
Trendsetters.
Yeah, we're trendsetters there. So, and unfortunately, I don't think they're putting in. I don't know. Hopefully, they're going to put them back because. But that's often where I need to get water. I might finish my run. But anyway, I'm just saying I'm glad to see that these are going out at the junior high.
And along with what Cecilia said at the back of the packet, there's some great, there's notations of great work by staff throughout the district. So thank you, as heads of all these departments, thank you guys very much for the wonderful work that you guys organize and make sure gets done.
And going forward, Steve,
We think
maybe
you're
we
super.
can acknowledge that somewhere in our agenda, so we can.
Do we need to go over the financials?
It's not on my agenda, so
I know, but they're.
You have the report every month.
Just-
We don't.
Yeah,
So I think we should have an agenda item that says discussion of like.
but that's in
That's on
committee
the
of the
committee
whole.
of the whole meetings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so 9.0, we ready for 9.0? I'm really excited about my
Everyone,
time.
please refer to the packet of information for some excellent staff updates, as has been mentioned. And with that, we'll move to 9.0.
I move to adjourn the August 8th, 2022 regular board meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Seconded.
Aye.
Adjourned.